I mean, it's
probably
live,
should.
right?
We probably
live
should
on the
put something
TikToks,
on live.
on the TikToks, or the
TikTok,
WhatsApp,
make my Glock pop,
or the WhatsApp, or what's that thing that we used to have with the music?
MySpace.
Was it MySpace with the music? Yeah. You know, it's still there, right?
Yeah, my profile's pretty rocking. You should go. You'd be impressed. You should see it.
It's still there.
Yeah, it's there.
Did you have a top 8?
Huh?
Did you have like a top 8 on
What?
your page?
What's that?
So you could label your friends in order of the top 8.
No, she always changed.
It's terrible. What podcast is this? 46?
42.
All right,
42.
Are we ready?
Are you recording?
What's up, guys? Pulling the Thread podcast, John and Scully, episode 42. We'll just roll right into this. We have a lot to talk about today.
I mean, we do. Hey, first off, let me make an apology. I have to make an apology.
Okay.
I've been last couple of podcasts. I've been going very hard in the paint on the Democrats about how terrible they are.
Oh, you're getting hate mail?
No, I haven't got any hate mail. Are people reaching out to you? Here's the thing. Maybe I've gotten hate mail, but guys, I'll look at any of your comments. So you can write whatever you want. It doesn't matter. So do it. No, it's the truth of the matter. You know, the truth of the matter is there are great people that label themselves Democrats,
But they're not.
but they don't understand that their party has completely been hijacked.
They don't realize that.
They just don't understand.
What was a Democrat 40 years ago is not the same thing as today.
That's the problem. It's closer today than it ever has been. So what I'm saying is the Democratic Party,
You guys need to take your shit back.
is closer to the Jim Crow, to Jim Crow laws than it ever was before. So the Democrats are closer to being, now the Democratic Party is closer to putting white hoods on and going and rounding people up than it ever has been before. Like, I mean,
I thought they're putting armbands on.
Think about it.
Rounding people up.
Think about it, guys. Every terrible thing that happened to minority communities in the South was done by the Democratic Party. King assassinated by the Democratic Party. The first internment camps in the United States with the Indians, the Trail of Tears, that was the Democrats. Japanese internment in World War II, Democrats. First atomic bomb dropped. The first 2 atomic bombs dropped in the world, Democrats.
Eugenics.
Not saying that's a good or bad thing, but guys, your track record is terrible. It is terrible. Every single time we've been on the verge of, on the verge of nuclear war, Democrats. It's the party
Eugenics,
is
Planned
rotten to the
Parenthood.
core.
Yeah,
it's just rotten to the core. And
they're waking up though.
Maybe
Not the Democrats. The group of the bodies that typically support the Democrats come voting time, they're waking up. Like when you read the comments, they're like,
I just don't think
you're not fooling anyone.
The problem is I just don't think that we are further and further away from your vote. I mean,
right? It doesn't make a difference.
They're gonna stack the books however they want.
Right. Vote harder.
Yeah, vote harder. Anyway, so again, for my
what's it gonna take to change it?
My Democrats that are living in some fake cloud of the Democratic Party.
But that's it.
Sorry.
But they do live in a fake cloud.
They do. They don't understand that their party
look at the liberal.
hijacked.
Look at the liberal chick that got her ass beat when she was out there fucking 2 years ago, defund the police and kissing fucking dudes' feet because she was white and shit. And now she got her ass beat, and she's like, "What happened? Where are the police?" Yeah, you voted for that shit, bitch.
Well, that's the problem is they don't think of the Democrats never think of the outcomes of what the long-term application is. And I'll give you a good example. I just saw this last night. Oh God, a bunch of climate scientists and a bunch of fucking Democrats decided, it'd be great. We have this tire problem. We have all these tires,
I saw it.
And we don't know. No, you probably haven't seen this one. We have all these tires. What can we do with these tires? I know. We could make a coral reef out of these tires. Let's dump 2 million tires in the ocean off the coast of Florida, and it'll make coral reefs. It's one of the biggest ecological nightmares that Florida has right now. They had to bring in the fucking U.S. military to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, pulling tires out of the fucking ocean, and they still only got 100,000 tires out.
Who approved it?
The Democrats.
So this was like some plan. We're going to build these coral reefs.
It was like 1979, 1980, that they're going to build these coral reefs. And you had, again, all these scientists who said it's a great idea, and it's just destroyed. It's destroyed the reefs that are already there. It hasn't created any fish habitats. The tires are all releasing toxins into the ocean.
That was my question. Why are we removing them?
It's just a nightmare.
So when you look at it from the air, you have this swath that just looks like a fucking acid. Well, and then every time in the ocean,
time they have a, again, what you sow, guys. Every time they have a hurricane, all these fucking tires roll up on the beach. It's just, it goes back to, again, liberals. We have to stop using paper bags, because paper bags are killing the trees. Let's get rid of paper bags. So what do? We get plastic bags. And now what are we doing? Oh, guess what? Plastic bags are worse than paper bags. It's just, they never think of the long-term consequences of anything that they do. They're just like, what is the immediate thing that we can do right now? Like, for example, another good example is the damn straws. We have to get rid of straws in California. We got to kill straws because they're bad. Because the turtles are doing cocaine. We got to kill straws because of the turtles that are doing cocaine. And so they kill straws. Just recently.
Yeah, the paper straws are more toxic.
The paper straws are more toxic to the environment than
they're putting more BPAs in you. They're more toxic
but they're even more toxic to the environment. Again, because the liberal mind wants to fix a problem, wants to fix something that may not even be a problem right this second. They never think about down the road. It's like, again, back to defund the police. When you defund the police, you get a city like Chaz in Seattle, which was the fucking wild, wild west that nobody wants to live in. And the liberals who are making these decisions, they're always making these decisions from afar, right? From afar. It's okay. You know what? If illegal aliens are just marching into Texas and taking over Texas, it's fine. But don't drop them off at Martha's Vineyard, because we don't have the infrastructure to handle. Who has the infrastructure to handle that kind of shit? Nobody does.
So do you see, speaking of Texas, right? So they built this thing out in the ocean to keep people from swimming across.
Oh yeah, and the judge told them they had to take it down.
Had to take it down, and then the feds came and said, "Well, you didn't use the Army Corps of Engineers. It has to be redesigned." This is, there's just so much nonsense around it. Have you seen the island in Italy right now? They took an island that had a population of 6,000 local people, and they infused 12,000 African illegals or migrants there. So
there's no way that's going to go wrong.
So the migrants, it's already turning catastrophic. Yeah. They're breaking in, they're displacing people from their homes that they own, taking over the houses. Now they sent 12,000 combat age males. There's no females with them. There's no children with them.
Again, I'm going to go back to what I said before. These people are coming from countries. These people are all coming from countries where females are second-class citizens, and that's the reason. I know we're like, oh, combat age males. The reason why is because in those countries, the people who migrate to find work are going to be the males, because they don't have a crisis of conscience like we have in the United States. So
correct.
If people were fleeing from the United States to go to Africa, yeah, you would probably find a lot more females, because females in this country feel empowered, entitled. That would all change as soon as they got to Africa. That power they would understand that the only power that they have is the power that has been given to them by males. So they'd get eat up like a football bat.
Well, that's where I'm going with it.
Yeah, that's the reason. That's the reason why when you see all these migrations, doesn't matter where they come from, it's always gonna be male. It's always gonna be the males that are out seeking a better life for
correct. Do you think
their people?
Do you think that 12,000 males are going to go there and not have sex? You think they're just going to be like,
no, yeah, it's a problem.
Yes.
It's a serious problem.
Take 100 women and dump them in a men's prison and see what happens.
That's the problem that they have in Iceland right now.
Yes,
a big lot of rape going on in Iceland because of all the immigrants.
It's happening in New York.
All the immigrants that they are pushing, and not to disparage immigrants. It's just a thing. It's like, if, for example, when you look at crime statistics in the United States, and you talk about shootings, an unfortunate statistic in the United States is black males are more likely to be killed by black males between the age, I want to say it's between the ages of 10 and 35. They're more likely to be killed by another black male. So that's terrible.
I thought the numbers were actually 80%.
It's higher than that.
No, I'm saying of the actual gun deaths annually.
Oh yeah, it's higher than that.
80% of it is black on black.
But what I'm saying is, as a person living in a community of color, you're more likely to be killed by another person of color.
Of your color.
Yeah, of whatever that color is. Where that falls apart, where it completely falls apart, is immigrants from Nigeria. If you're an immigrant, if you were an immigrant, whether you came here illegally or not, there's a good chance that you're going to get a bachelor's degree, and there's a really good chance that you're going to have a higher paying job than anybody else in that community, which means it's not the color of your skin. It's the problem of the society that you've created, right? It's the social construct that you've created within that community, because you have people that are coming from Africa that are the same color as you, but are succeeding. It's because they have a different social structure. They're not, again, whether we created it, the problem is when your social structure is, fuck the police, that's kind of where you're going to be. You're not, you can't, it's very hard to rise above that social class. Meaning, if you go to school and get a higher education and your community looks at you as like an Uncle Tom, then how do you rise up above that? Because
right.
most people are going to follow. Most people are going to sheeple, right? They're not going to try and exceed outside of their class structure. Whether, doesn't matter where you're at, but it's just interesting that how all that works out.
Did you see Zelensky at the UN yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, look.
So what he's saying that Russia came in and kidnapped, abducted, and trafficked 10,000 Ukrainian children. That's what he's telling the UN.
The problem with Zelensky and the problem with Ukraine is, they were the Pornhub of Europe prior to the war. They were the porn. If you wanted to go do dumb shit, that was the place to go, was Ukraine. So when Russia first went in to Ukraine, the Russians were talking about rescuing children. Again, I don't believe a fucking single thing that comes out of Zelensky's mouth. Because example right now is, forget about again, child trafficking happens all over the world. It's happening right here in the United States. Are government officials looking the other way? There are certain government officials in the United States that looks the other way at child trafficking.
Government officials that have been caught in it.
As a matter of fact, and
not prosecuted.
The head of, not the Border Patrol, but they just did a whole thing about how the federal government right now is in child trafficking because we're taking these children across the border and releasing them to people that we have no idea who they are because we're not vetting any of them. So, yes, child trafficking is alive and well in the United States, and your federal government is currently part of the problem. But Zelensky, okay, here's the thing. Zelensky is shitting bricks because the NATO countries have exhausted their ability to support Ukraine, meaning What most people don't understand is, again, Donald Trump was 100% right when he said NATO is not paying their fair share and that NATO needs to step up and start paying their fair share. Since the end of World War II, all the NATO countries have completely relied on the fact that the United States is going to flip the bill. It's the reason. The reality is, it's the reason why we are why our country has just been turned into a war machine. Because you have all these European countries, the Germans, the French, they're running around talking about democracy, but the only reason why they have that is because of American troops and tanks that have said, if the Russians attack, we'll come. And so those countries spent no money on national defense. Their militaries, sorry, if you're a German soldier or a French soldier or whatever, I'm sorry. It's not your fault, but your militaries are jokes. They are jokes. They don't have, like, the Germans. If the Russians decided to attack the Germans don't have 24 hours worth of ammunition to support that fight unless we give it to them, right? And so all these NATO countries have been feeding all the extra that they have to the Ukrainians. And they don't have extra. As a matter of fact, they're starting to give them things that are totally degrading their own force structure. Meaning they're when we're talking about artillery shells and we're talking about small arms ammunition, they're degrading their own military structures by giving all this shit to Ukraine. Now, smart leadership. I'm sure that there's some really smart French generals and some really smart German generals and some Belgian generals that still remember World War II that are like, hey, dickheads, if Ukraine doesn't go well and the Russians decide to pivot and go anywhere else, we don't have the capability to stop them. And if the United States ends up in some sort of quagmire in the Pacific with the Chinese, who's going to save us? Right? So they're trying to ramp up their production. But especially in Europe, you can't go from 0 to 100. It just doesn't work. They don't have the technical equipment to do it. They don't have the manpower to do it. They just can't go from 0 to 100. It's not like the United States where we can just turn on an ammunition plant.
Rosie the Riveter.
Right? We can just turn an ammunition plant on and start building more of whatever. They can't do it in Europe. And the European Union really has sapped the ability of those NATO countries to actually be, relevant? Like they're not relevant. When we, the United States, when the big concern in Ukraine is if the United States turns off the tap, that Ukraine will fall, that tells you immediately that the NATO countries are irrelevant, right? Because you think, okay, so the United States leaves. The entire free Europe has the capability of defending against the Russians. No, they don't. They don't, because they've dwindled their military structure down to nothing, down to a joke. So again, Zelensky is hearing rumbles of NATO is like, hey, we can't support this op tempo. The United States, people in the United States are like, hey, why are we sending all this money over to Ukraine to do nothing? I mean, because here's the other problem with Democrats. I'm sorry, Democrats. I know I beat you up, but you guys got to start thinking about what your core values are. Is they never have an end plan. There's never an end plan. When a Democrat goes to war, it's just like, hey, let's go to war. You have never heard this president or anyone in his staff, to include Miley and I can't think of the Secretary of Defense. No one in this staff, no one has gone, this is what we're doing in this war. This is how we're going to end this war. This is the strategic goals of the United States. No, it's just support Ukraine. We're just feeding the machine. There is no strategic goal in what is going on in Ukraine. I mean, we would be better off. The reality is we would be better off if the President of the United States said, hey, this shit's over. The war's done. Russia, stabilize your lines. Ukraine, stabilize your lines. I'm putting the 1st Marine Division, I'm putting the 1st and 2nd Marine Division on boats. We're coming to Europe. Army Corps Group, whatever. We're coming to Europe, and we're going to stop this. Everyone would be better off, because Zelensky wants everything. Zelensky wants everything back. So all of Ukraine, the Russians are not going to give him back the Donbass and those. They're not going to do it.
Fuck, there's nothing there anymore.
They're not going to do it.
They blew it all up.
So Zelensky, his war footing, what the Ukrainian government is pushing. They're pushing nuclear war, because the Russians have already said, if you try and take territory that we consider Russian territory, that is defensible by nuclear war. And they have always said that. This isn't something new. They were saying that in the 50s. They said it in the 60s. They're saying it now. So it's nothing new. The question is, are we stupid enough to push that line? Are we dumb enough to cross that line and see what the Russians will do?
I want to see them do it.
I mean, well, your boy, Canadian Prepper, has been living in a bunker for the last couple of days. He's off the rails about nuclear war. But again, Zelensky, he's already said, if America, like he just said this, if America pulls out, if America's like, we're not going to support Ukraine, he's like, that will initiate nuclear war. Okay, well.
Zelensky saying that.
Zelensky.
Does Zelensky have a button?
Zelensky does not have a button.
Right. So who's going to initiate fucking nuclear war?
The only way America stop funding Ukraine, initiates nuclear war,
is if Russia fucking does it.
If we false flag it. Because the reality is, the best thing to ever happen the best thing that would ever happen for the Russians is if we said, fuck it, we're done.
Yeah, because it'd be the best thing for us too.
It probably would be. If we say fuck it, we're done. At that point, there's no reason for the Russians to use nuclear weapons. Because Zelensky is in 30 days. In 30 days, the Ukrainian military ceases to exist. They don't have and I'm not saying that the Ukrainians aren't good fighters.
So where does
they are great
then what?
fighters?
Zelensky's paraded out and Russia's capture him, or we evacuate him?
Oh, he's
coming to the United States.
Yeah, he's a billionaire. I mean, all that money we've been sending has been going into his accounts all over he's not staying. If Congress came out tomorrow and said, hey, you know what? This Ukraine thing is a European problem. It's not a North American problem.
Congress won't do that. They're all making too much money.
Yeah, they're making too much money.
Both sides. That's why you see both sides. You see very few. Unfortunately, what's considered the radical fringes.
What most people don't understand is all that money's coming back to the United States.
I mean, if we put fucking Jim Jones and fucking the rest of them, Thomas Massey and.
But if we did pull out, if we said, if Congress came out and said we're not sending any more money or equipment to Ukraine, it's a never win. It's a no-win situation, and it's a European problem. Europe, you need to handle this. Zelensky would be gone in 24 hours.
Right.
At a minimum, 24 hours.
So where's the nuke come from?
Oh, it has to come from either European or North American country that wants to continue a war with Russia.
You see that happening? I'd like to wake up. I'd like to wake up tomorrow morning and just hear that.
I don't think so. But again,
number one, I want to see the footage of the nuke. I want to see that mushroom cloud. I want them to fucking just hit Ukraine, and then see. I think if we woke up in the morning and they're like, Russia nuked Ukraine, I think that'd be the end of it. I think that would be it.
Maybe, or maybe the goal of the elitists is to destroy Russia, Iran, and China, because those are the only dissenting votes in a one world government. right? Maybe
because
the reality is those are the
because they already own the United States.
Well, it's not that they already own the United States, like.
Well, we've
been systematically knocking off countries that have been a dissenting vote to what a one world government would look like. So, does a whether it's a false flag or it's Russia initiated, does that nuclear war end at that point, or does it just accelerate? Does it become a it's hard to tell. I don't think. I mean, I feel like, again, who knows in today's environment. I still feel like the nuclear weapons, that threshold, to step that boundary over, to step over that line. I still think that for most people, for most even government officials, and I mean, I hope Miley, but who knows? He's a treasonous turd burglar. I hope that is a line that somebody would be like, yeah, we're just going to let this one slide. You know what? If like, for example, if Russia dropped a nuke, if Russia used a tactical nuke on Bakhmut, like the city, I would.
Isn't there nothing in Bakhmut?
Yeah, I would hope that they would be like, yeah, guys, that city that didn't exist anyways. We've already blown it to smithereens, so let's not do it. It's kind of like.
The crazy thing with Bakhmut is like when you there's different photos of it out. I mean, we see very little of it, right? But it literally looks like we went to the cement plant up here and dropped a fucking bomb in there, and then the debris landed
that city.
But there's still people living there.
Yes,
there's people with tarps, half of a shed
no matter
left.
no matter what kind of. It's the interesting thing about the human spirit.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
No matter what carnage you put on a land, there's usually always somebody still there. Like you think about Hiroshima, right? The city didn't get evacuated. Like after the bomb, the city didn't get evacuated. Everybody just didn't go like live in the mountains. There were people still in the city, searching for canned goods and living underneath tents.
What was their life expectancy at that point?
Oh, it wasn't good.
I say that because like if we think of the worst nuclear disaster in the world, right? Chernobyl.
Yeah, there's people that never.
You have over 1,000 people still in the immediate area that never left. You have these whole foundations, all these dogs. You've got these dogs that all look like each other that have bred just from the existing dogs that were abandoned there. There's these packs of wild horses that are only found there. They've got these fucking enormous giant catfish that are living in the ponds.
Yeah, don't eat those catfish, man.
And then, like, when you go there as a tourist, like right now, even with the wars and shit going on, you and I can get on a plane, go to Chernobyl, and there's people that are extremely happy to see you, and you got little babushkas, I think that's what they're, the grandmas, and they're like cooking potatoes and some kind of meat that you're not really sure what it is, and they've got vodka that they've made.
So you can do radiation tourism.
Yes.
And
it's called what's it called? Black tourism or gray tourism?
I don't know.
You can go to war zones and shit.
But there's this YouTuber that's all he does is goes to places that have been irradiated, whether it's plutonium or uranium mines and shit like that. He goes and does this, and so he went to Chernobyl and was able to get as close as you can get to the sarcophagus, and
they have somewhere you can actually go inside that thing.
Yeah, there's scientists and shit that are there every monitoring. Day. Yeah. But his dosimeter, like he's got like the best dosimeter you can buy and shit. His dosimeter goes into the fucking danger zone, right? It goes in the danger zone, and he's like, yeah, you can stand in this much radiation for this much time, blah blah blah. And he's like, but we're gonna leave because that's a lot of radiation, and blah blah blah. And so they go outside of the they're still in a radiation zone, but the further away you get from it, the better off you are. And then he went to Fukushima.
Yeah.
He went to Fukushima, and he's on a bus with all these tourists, and they're trying to drive towards Fukushima, and they're not even close. And his dosimeter is fucking pegged to the red, and all the other people are like, this isn't good. This is bad. This is super bad. And the tour guide's like, no, we can drive all the way down there. And they convinced him. They're like, no, fuck no, we're going back. Now, the difference would be this. as human beings, we tend to test things, right? So we always test things. So
that's when you can't. That one doesn't present itself till much later in life.
That's the problem with radiation. The problem with radiation is, yes, can you get in a bus? Like, I am sure that tour guide has been down there like 4 or 5 times. He's been down there and he's like, perfectly fine. Nothing happened to me.
Is he making it all the way to the power plant?
How
close are
they? They will take them all the way to. Well, they were. I think he said. I want to say they were like 5 miles away, and they were already fucking pegged out. And then they just turned around and they went to this village and had lunch. And the guy's like, all his shit is, all the stuff that they're feeding him is
right,
radiated.
And he's
like,
from?
And the tour guide's like, oh no, we stop here and eat all the time. It's that because I grabbed the handle on the stove and it didn't burn my hand, I think I'm okay.
Right.
Right. And that's it. It's the same thing. When you're dealing with radiation, it's the same thing. People just assume, they're like, oh, because it didn't kill me today, I'm fine, but I'm going to have some horrible cancer in the future that I'm going to regret that I went down. It's
the accumulation of the old X-ray machines, right?
Yeah.
When you go into old facilities and they've spent all this time and money to get these X-ray machines out of there, if they're worried about that shit, that should tell you something about the other shit.
Yeah.
When you look at Fukushima, I think it was just 2 years after Fukushima, you had major highways that had forests growing down the highways. Yeah. You had these tracks of just where the Mother Nature has encroached and taken over. And the best forest in the area, when you look at the aerial view, is actually where the blacktop used to be.
And anybody who's a nuclear power supporter, Fukushima, right now Fukushima is killing your ocean. Because they are putting millions and millions and millions of gallons of radiated water into the Pacific Ocean. And that water, believe it or not, is following the current, and it's coming all the way to coastal California. If you are stupid enough to think that radiated water is not doing anything to affect what is going on in your ocean, I don't think you should be the one making the decision about whether or not we should have nuclear power plants.
Well, they say it's tritium is what they're releasing into the oceans right now. I remember watching.
Yeah, but they actually have a tracker, so you can look at the satellite imagery of where that water is releasing out of Japan and flowing into the Pacific, and everywhere that red zone is, everywhere it is, it's fucking dead.
Well, we were discussing
dead
that.
Ocean.
We were discussing that probably 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I was watching all of those videos about that, and what they were saying is that people are reporting tide pools as far as San Diego, like all the way down to San Diego. The tide pools are dead.
Yeah.
There's like all of the life that's supposed to be in those tide pools. There's nothing there, and they're saying it's destroying like all your salmon migration and your salmon fishing and everything in the ocean. Yeah,
it's fucking terrible. It is terrible. That is why you don't have nuclear power, because we are monkeys, and we can't. We think we can keep everybody safe. The problem is, it's not that you can have, like, for example, I think there's 25 nuclear reactors in the United States that are running, both small and big, and they've been running for a long time. It's not your successes, it's your failures that you have to judge everything by. And if your failures create an environment that is unlivable, you can't accept those failures.
But when we started, because a lot of people probably don't realize, I didn't until maybe a few years ago, that it's actually steam, right? We're using fission to produce heat, to boil water, to turn a turbine to create electricity. So you have to have flowing water, or you have to have heat, which has created, steam. But the United States went in a direction that they were more worried about making a byproduct that they could make bombs out of. There is stuff that does not make bombs that still puts out nuclear fission that has a half-life that's much, much greater than the other stuff. It's like having small reactors like on board of ships and stuff like that. You could break all of those up and have much smaller units, so that if one did go high order, you have much less of an issue with that. And they say that Spearco had a dude on that was talking 5-6 years ago about a nuclear reactor that they're using in other countries. It's way safer than what we're using.
We always,
but the powers that be, they're making a lot of money off of this stuff, and the byproduct is that they can make weapons out of it.
We always, as monkeys, we always assume that we are better monkeys than the monkeys before us. And so that's whenever you hear about nuclear power and people talk about, oh, well, the reactors are much safer now, or the plutonium is not as plutonium as it used to be. These are all arguments of a modern monkey versus an old monkey. When Fukushima went online, it was the most advanced nuclear reactor system in the world, and those same monkeys that are talking about how, reactors are much safer now, those same monkeys were the same monkeys that said that reactor was safe. The problem with nuclear power is it's too dangerous. I would say the same thing about nuclear weapons. The nuclear weapons as a whole are too fucking dangerous for monkeys to have the ability to launch those nuclear weapons because they're just fucking dangerous on a scale that we are not prepared for, right? I don't give a shit how well the plant works. I don't want it in my backyard because it's still a dude. Like, for example, Chernobyl. Chernobyl was not a nuclear reactor problem. It wasn't a nuclear reactor problem. It was a monkey problem. The monkeys did the wrong stuff.
Do you remember when it happened?
Yeah, I remember when it happened. Yeah.
Do you remember where you were?
1987?
Do you remember where you were?
No, I don't remember where I was. That was a long time ago. I was still in high school.
Wasn't it right there with St. Helens?
Was it? Could have been.
I sure thought it was. I think I was at the same school.
No. I think I'm probably wrong because again, I'm old guys, and so my
when was St. Helens? 84.
But I think St. Helens was 84, and I think
87?
Chernobyl was 87.
Yeah. Look that up. When was Chernobyl?
But same thing.
Okay, so no nuclear electricity. What do you prefer?
What do I prefer?
Well, what if you made the rules? What would it be?
I would use
1986 April.
Got it.
86. Okay. I would use the same things we're using now.
Open fossil fuels back up.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
It's first off, guys. I know you didn't want to hear this because you're all sucked into your climate change. Here's a fact. Okay, here's a fact. The IPCC, I think that the people who have created this climate change disaster that you think is looming around the world. Okay,
how dare you?
They keep telling you about a model, right? They keep telling you about this model that has modeled why CO2 is bad for the environment, blah, 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 even though nothing lives on the planet without CO2, guys. Again.
We're actually at the
threshold. Nothing lives on the planet without CO2.
I heard the other day we're actually at the part per million threshold.
We're at the...
Where if you lose any more CO2...
We're at the part where we are CO2-wise, we are where we're supposed to be.
Correct.
To live on this planet, for trees to grow, to fucking oxygen. Anyways. But, again... Go ahead and go to the IPCC, the people who are claiming all this nonsense, and look at their models. You hear what I just said? Look at their models. They have over 100 models. They have over 100 models that all say something different. Okay, some say that the ice caps are going to completely melt. Some say that the ice caps won't completely melt. But they have 100 different models. Now, I want you to remember what I just said. They have 100 different models that predict something. That's not science. It's not science. If there's 100 models, it's not science. When an apple falls from a tree, scientists can predict the speed that apple is going to fall from the tree and hit the ground. That's science. There's not 100 equations that are going to predict different impact speeds for that apple, because that's not science. When you have 100 different models that all exclude certain things to the benefit of the model, that's not science. You've been fucking hoodwinked. Even Al Gore, the one who started all this bullshit.
Said it was bullshit.
You can go right now and see a clip of Al Gore who just recently talked about how all of that was bullshit. It was a means of moving money, taking money away from you in order to line the pockets of the uber rich. No different than what's going on in Canada. They have a carbon tax of $70 per million CO2 or whatever. They want to raise it to $170 per million. That doesn't go to feed that money. None of that money goes to save the fish, reclaim all the wasted nuclear water of Fukushima. It doesn't even go to rebuild the forests in Canada. They're putting it in their pockets. They're fucking stealing that money. There is not a single bit of climate change taxation that helps the climate. Even if this was real, let's say 100% it's real and we have to stop CO2. You cannot name an official government program that is helping to stop carbon or CO2 through taxation. Okay? Now, if Joe Biden says we're not going to drill for oil anymore, that doesn't cost any money. So why do I need a carbon tax? It doesn't cost a dime. They're stealing this money to line their fucking pockets, guys. It's a hoax at the biggest level, and if you believe it, you just don't have any reasoning. You don't have a capability of deducing facts yourself because, again, like I said, go to the source. Go to the source and show me the climate model that predicts this. They don't have one. So they have 100.
So the money is stolen via taxes, right? So the money is taken from U.S. citizens, given into the IRS's accounts.
No. It doesn't go to the IRS.
Where does it go?
When you are federally taxed,
where does that money go?
That goes into a big federal budget, right? They get to spend it on whatever they want.
So how does the individual politician get that money?
Oh, that's easy, John. How does an individual politician get that money? I'll use Barack Obama, for example. What I do is I come out and I go, Sun Solar, this is the company that's going to save America, and we're going to give them $42 billion in tax money to create this solar panel system, right? That everybody's going to get. And then what does Sun Solar do?
Is that a real company?
It was a real company.
Okay.
What does Sun Solar do? They go, we're going to save the planet. We're going to save the planet. And then they immediately give that money back to, a good chunk of that money back to that politician through donations. By the way, Sun Solar went bankrupt and they don't exist anymore because, again, it was a shell game. It's all bullshit. It's no different than the Clinton Foundation. The Clinton Foundation didn't build a twig house in Haiti, yet they took billions and billions of dollars and donors gave it to them. And that was so, really it was so Chelsea could have a really nice wedding. But again, it's all bullshit. It's all a scam. It's no different. For example, I'll use California as an example. California, what does California do? They use the liberal mind hive of Californians and say, hey, we're going to tax gasoline in order to improve the roads, to make the roads better in California. And, the liberal hive mind, they're like, that's a great idea. Let's tax roads let's tax gasolines in order to improve the roads. California did everything in their power to not spend a dime of that taxation money on the roads. As a matter of fact, under Gavin Newsom, not only did he raise gas taxes, but he also created a bill formulated a bill that said they can spend that money on whatever they want. They don't have to spend it on the roads. So again, the will of the people is diverted by the politician because that's how they line their pockets. The more general, here's the thing, the more general the fund is, the more graft is going on. So again, everything should be specific, meaning I should be able to go, like, literally when I pay my taxes, especially in this day and age, guys, when I pay my taxes, I should be able to look at it and go, okay, all right. 10% went to police, 15% went to fire department, 2% went to roads, and 50% went to national defense. I should be able to break that down with when the IRS is like, this is how much money you owe, they should also be able to go, and this is where that money's going specifically. There's no reason, there is no fucking earthly reason why at the federal level all that money just goes into a little pot and those pigs get to decide how they spend it.
There's also no reason that it shouldn't just when you spend it, it automatically comes out. Like why is it on you to determine how much you have to pay them? Why don't they just tell you? Like they don't know?
Well,
when you have a fucking flat tax and then it's not on the individual, but the whole goal of it is to keep you in some form of turmoil and be able to punish you.
No, that's not it, John. You can't flat tax.
Why?
The reason why you can't flat tax,
because then they would all have to pay it.
Then they would all have to pay it. Like Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to pay taxes. That's why the tax code is this thick. So Nancy Pelosi,
88,000 pages.
So Nancy Pelosi doesn't have to pay
8,000 is what you have to pay, and 80,000 is how not to pay it.
Yeah,
and those codes grow every year.
Yeah.
Because some congressman or senator in there wants to have his thing. So if he owns all these properties, but actually uses these properties 3 times a year, now it is not taxable.
Well, it's this.
And they write that into code.
It's the Bill Gateses of the world. They don't want to pay taxes, and what they do, because again, it's a misnomer to think that Nancy Pelosi sits in her office and goes, and she goes, I really want to save the children. Let me write a bill to save the children.
Right. No.
They don't do that.
No.
Those bills are brought to them from outside sources.
People who are bribing them.
Outside sources. And what they do is they're like, here, let's put this in the tax code so I don't have to. They don't say I don't have to. They're like, hey, Nancy, if we do this in the tax code, you won't have to pay these taxes. Not only will you not have to pay these taxes, but I happen to know all these other people on this side of the column that if they don't have to pay these taxes would give you a sizable donation. And that's how that shit gets through. It's graft and corruption. And I'm using Nancy because she's the worst. But again, at that level, when we were talking about the federal government, it's across the board. They are all corrupt and easily corruptible. The reality is Dan Crenshaw does the same exact shit. He does the same insider trading that Nancy Pelosi does. Same insider trading. Now, again, as an American, just because it's legal for them, because again, don't forget, when you see all these things about insider trading and they're like, oh God, how can they get away with it? Blah, blah, blah. They passed a law a long time ago that allows them to use insider trading in order to create financial gain. They created a law for themselves. So there's
video of Nancy Pelosi out there saying, well, it wouldn't be fair if we couldn't do it because how would we wouldn't be able to participate.
They're exempt. Okay. But that does not make it right.
There's a whole website of Nancy's stock trades.
Yeah,
that was published. They actually fucking tried to get that taken down.
I actually thought about trying to follow her stock trades, but again, you got to have it. You got to be in it to win it. But again, just because you have this group of elitists over here and they say it's okay to eat babies, does not mean you eat babies. You have to have the moral high ground to stand on and go, hey, if it's not legal for the rest of America, then I don't care what law or bill or bullshit that you pass that says it's legal for you. I'm not going to partake in that. And unfortunately, that just never happens. They get to that place, and it's like they crumple the Constitution. Like they get elected and they crumple the Constitution. They throw it in the trash, and they're like, "Hey, let's all eat babies. Let's do whatever all these other knuckleheads are doing because all I want to do is get rich." I think anyone who cannot account, like, again, if you can't account for the money that you have made while you were in Congress, meaning you get a certain paycheck, and that's the paycheck that should be in your bank. If you, AOC, in this example, she's making they make $120 some odd thousand or something like that, some weird number, a year. At 3 years, if she has more than what they paid her, then she should be arrested because she is being peddled or influenced through bribes. It's bribery. Doesn't matter. Same thing with, again, Nancy Pelosi, Dan Crenshaw, and I'm using those two because they have been completely outed on this shit. They're all doing it.
And they're polar opposite parties.
Any of that insider trading, it should be any gains that they have gotten through insider trading should be taxed at 100%. If not, they should be taken out of Congress, because if the law does not apply to everybody, like if Martha Stewart, the queen of cupcakes, has to go to jail for insider trading, then God damn it, Nancy Pelosi should have to too. And it doesn't matter about the game. When those fucking morons are like, oh, well, then how would we get to? You know how you would get to?
In 3 years when you're not in Congress.
In 3 years when you're not in Congress, you can go and play the stock market all you want, because what you are saying is your position is not about the people. Your position is about yourself. All those people should be run out.
If you have the ability to profit, then you have the ability to be purchased.
All those people should be run out. They should just be run out.
What was AOC booed down over the other day? What was all that mess about? Did you see that? She was talking about migrants coming in and we need to provide housing and everything. And the people in the area were like, no, we're not doing that.
No, it was, there's been so much crazy shit going on lately that
we're going to get to it all.
I saw it and saw the story, and I was like, oh, that would be something good to talk about. But man, it's already been buried by 10 other things.
What's in your head that's good to talk about? I've got a few of them. What do you got? What sticks out?
Well, we've talked about them.
Okay. Tell me about F-35 jets. F-35 fighter.
It's an interesting story.
It happened previously also.
It's a very interesting story. Here's the thing about modern attack aircraft in the U.S. arsenal. When we're talking about the F-22 Raptor, the F-35, they fly themselves.
Yes.
So
same with your jets.
They really
you're heavy, like your jumbo jets.
These things really fly themselves.
Yes.
Okay, and they have a form of artificial intelligence that operates. They have a form of artificial intelligence that operates under the level of a pilot, meaning if the pilot is doing things right to make the plane fly a certain way. So if he's in complete control and he's flying the plane and he wants it to do this or that, he's inputting controls. The plane, the AI inside the aircraft, is actually doing other things that he's not even aware of in order to make what he believes is happening happen, right? Because like a Raptor almost can't even fly without AI. So you have a technologically advanced aircraft that can fly and damn near land on its own, that almost doesn't need a pilot, which is what the reality is. It's what's the kingpins in the Air Force want. They want an aircraft that doesn't need a pilot, because then the generals can just be like, do their thing.
Do you not think that we're actually at that point and they're just not telling the public? Do you not think that there's some kid in fucking Colorado in a skiff somewhere that's able to control that thing as a drone?
Even with the like the Raptors, right? So you think the Raptors are completely autonomous. There are still
what's the F-35? Is that a Raptor?
No, the F-35 is the Marine Corps, the Marine and Navy one.
So that's what they just lost control of.
Yes. No. We are not at the point. We are not at the point yet where an AI aircraft takes off from an aircraft carrier and goes and shoots down a bunch of fucking manned aircraft. We're not at that point yet. There's still it's close, but AI just isn't. It's not. For example, yes, can a kid in the Mojave Desert, actually a lot of females, can these female Air Force pilots fly a Raptor from Nevada or Nellis halfway around the world and shoot a fucking shoot a missile at a target and then fly that thing back and have it land and recover it? Yes. They can do that, no problem. The technology is almost there. It's almost there. Where we don't even need that Air Force pilot anymore. Where we don't need the guy in there doing this and pushing the button. We're almost there, but we're not quite there yet. But that's an aircraft that is moving in uncontested airspace. So it's really, when you think about the Raptor and the Reaper and all the big drones, they're just, I don't want to say dumb, but they're like trains, right? They're like trains. They're specific. They're doing a specific thing. Boop, they go down the track. They go up in the air. They fly on a heading that is pre-programmed. Blah blah blah, and they get to their target. The controllers identify the target through the cameras, and then they fire the missile at the thing, and then it gets back on the track and it flies back. I don't want to say dumb, because they're not dumb. Those drones are not dumb, but again, they're flying in uncontested airspace, meaning they don't. Example, the Russians were pissing fuel on them because they thought it was funny, right? They at any time, those Su-27s, I think they were, or 20, I can't remember what, but at any time, they could have just wingtipped that drone and it would have crashed into the fucking ocean, right? It would have been, it's when you're talking about a drone going up against a manned aircraft, we don't have drones that stand a chance right now. So again, let's go back to the F-35. But it is highly technical, meaning pilots in those aircraft are doing some cool shit, but they're not really, it's not like the old days.
Right. You don't have to pull levers and wires anymore. It went to servos and now it's computers.
Yeah, it's no wires at all anymore. Nobody flies by wire anymore. I think the Russians might still have some fly-by-wire planes, but so you have this F-35 that can do a lot of shit. Now, the pilot, again, these are just first sourced information, so this has the ability to evolve and change. But the pilot requested to eject. So the pilot, this is the thing that's interesting about this, is the plane is flying on autopilot. He is not flying the aircraft. It is flying itself.
He's just a passenger.
He requests to eject from the aircraft. What was the situation? Again, this F-35 did not have an in-flight emergency like me and you are used to, meaning it had a flame out, a fucking part of the tail fell off, whatever, a bird hit the fucking canopy and he couldn't see through bird guts or whatever, and he's like, hey, I need to get out of this aircraft. He requested to eject out of that aircraft. And he ejected in a manner that is not, that's not normal, meaning it was at full speed. Again, it had perfect flight conditions. Pilots are not supposed to eject out of their aircraft unless they no longer have control of said aircraft. So what went wrong with the AI in that particular aircraft that pilot was like, I need to get the fuck out of here, right? I need to get the fuck out of here. And it has to be a problem. It has to be a problem that we are aware of, because if it wasn't a problem if it was like let's say, I don't know, let's say they just updated the computer and the computer's like, hey, fuck you, pilot, I'm going to kill you, right? If we didn't know about it, they wouldn't have said, get out of the plane. They would have said, okay, it would have been like like when Apollo 13 was it not 13, Apollo 12 when it would have been a scenario where, especially since the aircraft was still flying, they would have been like, okay, Bob, this is what you're going to do. You're going to turn off circuit C, turn on circuit L, blah, blah. We're going to restart this fucking computer. We're going to figure out why it is telling you it's going to eat you.
Get your pilot's survival knife.
Yeah, there would have been things. There would have been things that they would have been telling the pilot to do because, again, the plane was still flyable.
So what do we think we know?
Well, I think that something happened with the AI that would have been catastrophic for the pilot.
So how long? So
maybe not. Maybe not, because it was in autopilot and it was just flying off into the, woods of South Carolina or North Carolina, right? It was, so you would think if it was, like if that F-30, let's say the F-35 became aware, right? And it's like, hey, holy shit, look how cool I am. I fly through the air and I got, who's this motherfucker? Get rid of him. I'm going to eject him out and I'm just going to fly around. That the artificial intelligence would have known about landing. So why would it crash in the woods? It wouldn't crash in the woods. It's a V-stall aircraft. Well, it could have just fucking.
Maybe it was shot down.
Like, for example,
what really happened?
For example, you would think. Again, I don't work in Defense Department secrets, but you would think, just like a DJI drone, that if a pilot ejected, that the AI would be like, oh shit, where'd my pilot go? My pilot has ejected. I'm still okay.
Right. It's just
let me just turn around and fly back to base and land. Right. You would think that was the capability. I would also assume that with the technology that's in those aircraft, and maybe not, because you wouldn't want Brandel to fucking hotwire a fucking F-35 Raptor or F-35, whatever the hell they are. You would think that they would be able to communicate with that aircraft. And so when they're like this is the part that blows my mind. When they're like, yeah, pilot ejected and we don't really know where the airplane went.
For hours.
That can't even be possible. That can't be possible that they didn't know where the aircraft went.
So apparently the thing has a 1,200-mile range. That seems kind of small for...
No, that's for fast-burning engines, yeah.
Okay, so 1,200-mile range. It had extra drop tanks on it, from what they're saying.
I mean, maybe they were...
Debris field. I haven't seen any photos of a debris field.
Maybe that's what they were checking. Maybe they were like, all right, pilot, you're gonna eject out of this aircraft, and we're gonna see if AI will bring it back home.
So there's a lot of video of this thing. You have like these checkpoints set up on these roads that look like, what it really looks like is you have these roads into housing developments that haven't been built yet. That's what it looks like. And you've got some guys in they look like old zip up tack vests. Yeah. Like a movie or something. And they have fucking easy up canopies sitting there, and they're just telling people you can't come in here. Do you think maybe they had a broken arrow situation where they had a...
No, not on that kind of aircraft. Not on that kind of aircraft.
Because they have those set up. They can be bombers or they can be like attack bombers.
Yeah, not on that aircraft. They wouldn't even that's not really nuclear. I mean, again, nuclear payloads can be very small now, but it's not the realm. It's not within the realm of that aircraft, and it's also not in the realm of. I don't want to say that it's not in the realm of the U.S. Navy, but.
Where was this bird?
Marine aviation, marine and naval aviators are not really
nuke guys.
They're not really nuke guys. We're not, if the President of the United States says, I want to drop a tactical nuke, somewhere, right? They're going to talk to they're going to talk to the Navy, but they're not going to talk to surface fleet. They're going to talk to the dudes underwater. And they're going to talk to the Air Force, but they're not going to talk to Raptors. They're going to be talking to the heavy bomber guys.
So where was this thing out of?
I want to say it was out of Charleston, South Carolina, but not 100% sure.
So, did you see the video maybe 6 months ago where a pilot ejected he was on the ground, like on the runway, and I thought he ejected out of the bird, and the bird fucking, like, the jet turned around and chased him, it looked like in the video, and then it ended up hitting something and kind of flipping over on its wing-tipped and flipped the bird kind of sideways. So I remember seeing that, and I thought it was an F-35 then also. I thought that happened out of Florida.
Could have.
So this is but why are they telling us this? It's pretty embarrassing that you lost a fucking $100 million jet.
You have to.
Why?
Because you have a fucking an aircraft that's moving at 1,000 knots, and
yeah, they said 1,200 miles, 1,200 knots.
You have this aircraft that is hauling ass through not really hauling ass, but it's moving at a good clip in a general direction, right? They're like, yeah, it's going east, or it's going west. So you have to tell people, because there's a good chance that this fucking UFO is going to crash into somebody's backyard.
Well, don't we? I mean, we have satellites, surely. I'll bet you.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'll bet you if you talk to Mil-Spec Monkey, I'll bet he could tell you where that fucking plane was.
That's what I'm saying.
How in the fuck can the government not tell you?
What I'm saying is, I am pretty sure that when those aircraft are flying CONUS, that they are completely trackable. That the Air Force, or in this case the Navy or whoever, they know exactly where those airplanes are, but at a higher level.
Right.
Correct,
yeah.
At a higher level. Yeah. So the air controller, the guy at the airfield in South Carolina, he can only use the tech that he has available to him, which is going to be all unclass. And so when he's like, hey, one of our pilots just ejected and this F-35 is cruising towards fucking whoever, it's just cruising to the east. At that command level, at the actual airfield command level, they have to tell people, right? They have to tell people. It's kind of like, well, I'll give you an example. It's kind of like when that submarine imploded, the billionaire submarine imploded
that they knew about 3 days before.
The minute that submarine imploded,
everybody knew.
Well,
you and I didn't, but everybody that has.
I knew because I'm a nerd, and I knew in the 80s, back in the 80s, here in the United States, when a nuclear submarine in Russia fired up its props and started moving out, we heard it.
Right.
We were listening to it. So I knew that technology existed.
That was all part of that SAIC fucking netting.
I knew
stuff.
that technology existed. And so I actually told people, I told people that I'm like, yeah, not only are those motherfuckers dead, but we know they're dead because we heard that thing implode.
Well, yeah, the Navy said they knew it, even after all the talk of rescue and all this shit.
We heard that thing implode. It's how they went after I think it was the Kursk, the Russian submarine that we tried to pick up. We knew that submarine had imploded because we heard it. But that is even today, even though that is is it the Solstice early warning system? I don't know. Even though that system is very old, it's still at a classified level that, in theory, a Navy commander, like if the Navy would have came, because it wouldn't be at the Coast Guard level, who was doing all the briefings. If a fucking Navy admiral came out and went, yeah, they're all dead, we heard the thing implode, there would have been so many questions at the classified level that he would have been in trouble, right? And so that's why it stayed under wraps. It stayed under wraps to, again, protect protect Joe Biden and his son, but it stayed under wraps, and that's why we went through all that fiasco of we're looking for them. But that's the same thing with this. That's the same thing with the Raptor. They may have known. At some level, they may have known exactly where that aircraft was, exactly where that aircraft was going, but that information would be classified because we don't want our adversaries to be able to figure out how we know that.
Or they don't want to tell us China hacked it or whoever, just like the MGM Grand was hacked.
Yeah, I don't think
All right, I gotta pee.
Okay,
so
oh god, it's so good.
We're back.
It's like mother's milk.
So do you think they really crashed an F-35?
Yes, they really crashed an F-35.
Did you ever see pictures of it?
Of the crash site?
Yeah. From the air or where?
From the air.
Okay, so you don't think this? Because have you seen all the memes that Zelensky has the F-35?
Oh yeah. The one I like the best is it's like it's something from Trailer Park Boys, and they're all like throwing stuff on them like, come on, let's go, we're gonna get us the F-35. You know, it's it. Yeah, but no, yeah, they really crashed an F-35. That's I know the conspiracy people are gonna be like but as you and I don't know if you ever went up there, but I had an F-14 Tomcat crash in my backyard. Like literally,
this Top Gun used to be right there, out of Miramar.
Maybe 1,000 yards away from our house in the hillside.
How old were you?
God, I don't know how old I was. I mean, I was young, still living at home. But again, I was up there like immediately. It was amazing that the Navy did the same. They did the same thing they did for this F-35. They cordoned off all the streets. They kept everybody away. They brought in all these crews to fucking pick up all the, pick up the debris field and stuff. But even that, even after they went and I went up there, there was so much shit. Like I still have it to this day. I have the on the side of the canopy. There was these square things that were pull for ejection, and I have it's canopy. It says canopy. God, I got to find that thing. But it's like canopy ejection something. But it's just these orange blocks that are on the side of the thing, and they're checkered in orange or yellow. And I found that I just walked up and found that on the ground. Same thing with this F-35. They're going to go up there and they're going to try and get as much of the. They're going to try and get as much of the aircraft as they can. But if you know where that aircraft went down, I promise you go back in a week, there's still going to be shit all over the place because they just, again, the Department of Defense is kind of lazy.
So, did both the pilots walk away?
Oh, the Tomcat, yeah, they both walked away. I believe I'm.
And you kind of fought the plane as an F-14, like
you
had to
fight,
like you could go unconscious, and you were constantly fighting the plane.
But if I remember it right, and again, guys, this was almost 30 years ago. If I remember it right, the pilot stayed in the aircraft
to avoid the houses
long enough to get the aircraft over the housing. Out so that the aircraft was going to hit the mountain instead of hitting the town. Which thank you, because it's literally like they almost flew over our house. But interesting. But they both survived. I know that neither one of them were killed.
But that plane, like you could take a weaker human being and a stronger human being, and the weaker human being, the airplane didn't compensate for his weakness in that airplane. Like the pilot literally fought that plane to get. No,
they still flew those planes. Yeah,
they flew those planes. But the new ones, it's not the case.
It's called it's what it's called is fly by wire.
Right.
And what that means is.
But I thought fly by wire meant electrical wires push servos, where it used to be cables and such.
That's what they're talking about. I'm sorry, you're right. It's fly by cable. Those old aircraft, when you would input, you would actually be moving a cable that would move those flaps and shit like that. And so it required a little bit of gusto, I guess. But now, I said that wrong before, but now we fly by wire, which means it's just an electrical input. So, when you see Tom Cruise going, slamming things forward and shit like that, he's inputting against a mechanical object, right? They don't need to do that. It's kind of like driving the track hose now, where you're just like boop 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 boop. It's an electrical input, so you don't need to have any force involved. Hence the reason why you have female F-35 pilots. I'm just kidding, ladies. I know you're doing good out there.
Have you noticed that the talk of Lahaina has gone away? You're not seeing any discussions really of Maui fires.
I mean, I think it's still there, but again, the news cycle is so atrocious, and reporters don't really report news anymore.
They're newsreaders. They get issued a script.
Yeah, it's just clickbait, right? It's I run into the same thing now on YouTube where everything is a landmark Supreme Court decision, and then you click on it and they're like, well, maybe in a couple of months. It's all clickbait, and there's nothing clickbait about Maui anymore. It's unfortunately because, again, there's still 1,000 people missing from the fires in Maui.
There's something interesting that popped up. We went to the Discovery Park this weekend for that knife show. Super cool, by the way. We were right there with all the dinosaurs. Our tables were set up literally next to the dinosaur. You can rent that place out. It's not even expensive. We can rent the entire, and if you are attending the knife show, the knife show was free to all attendees. If you're attending the knife show, you got access to the entire park for free that day.
Huh,
so
nice.
You and I can go in there and rent this place and just have whatever.
Well,
John and Scully's Christmas dinner.
I can't afford to rent.
And you can have it. You can have it catered. You can have food for sale. You can have open bar. Like they have all these things you add on.
That's kind of cool.
And as a attendee to the knife show, while the museum closed at 4, we had access to all 3 levels of the museum.
You might not know this, or you may know this. That movie theater that is kind of over by.
You can do that with a lot of them.
Yeah, they rent that out for. Mm-hmm. You can rent out a theater there.
Which one are you talking about?
It's over by. It's camping. It's Camping World, Camping USA now, but it used to be.
Oh, you're talking about the one in Jackson?
Yeah, it used to be. Yeah, that movie.
The Regal.
Lance Sharon rented it out. He rents it out at Christmas time and watches Die Hard, which is a real Christmas movie, by the way.
I didn't get that invite.
I probably forgot to tell you.
It's probably his church group.
Well,
they're like, hey, we're doing this thing. Don't tell John.
No, it was.
He says bad words too much.
It was the gun. I think it was more of the gun shop crew than the rest of them. That's
cool. Yeah, you can do that. It's not even expensive.
But that's what he said. He said he said it was cheaper. He goes, it was cheaper to get everybody here at the movie theater and watch a movie together than to go to take them all to dinner.
Yeah.
Right? It'd be more expensive.
Yeah.
So I liked it. I thought it was a great idea. I enjoyed going. It was cool to watch Die Hard on the big screen again.
Yeah, that's neat.
It was good.
Yeah, that's cool. So that was pretty cool. Anyways, we were on the way there. So I'm typically, while she's driving, I've got the laptop in my lap and I'm running YouTube videos or whatever. But a video kept popping up and I hadn't watched it for a couple days. And then I looked at it and it said tunnels under Maui or tunnels under Lahaina. And the video was from 7 years ago. And it's these dudes going down through these access doors and stuff. And there are tunnels all under that area that burned, apparently. And this video was actually published. It's 7 years old, but it kept popping back up. And when I said something about it, she goes, yeah, I've been seeing that video too. And they're down there in these big fucking tunnels that you can literally walk down. Now, they say they're irrigation tunnels, but they apparently run all through the island. Pretty weird.
Yeah, the place that burned up wasn't a big agricultural hub.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, well, who knows? Again, because what do? We build infrastructure over infrastructure over infrastructure. That's why you can go to Seattle and go underground and see old timey buildings that have been buried.
They've got that. Chattanooga's got a part like that.
Yeah, we build over infrastructure, but the problem is. The problem is there is so much fake news that you never know at what truth level it is. As far as when especially for example, I'll give you an example. You never know what truth level is when Burning Man locked down and they said one person had died and they locked everybody down and they're like nobody can leave. There was a bunch of people that were saying, the bubonic plague broke out in Burning Man and blah, blah, blah. So you never know. Now, I knew that not to be true. I knew it wasn't true.
I don't know. I always question everything. If they're telling you, it's probably something else. If they're telling you that's not true, it's probably true.
I knew this is the reason why I knew it wasn't true. Because people think that Burning Man, people think that Burning Man is like a bunch of hippies running around.
It's $1,000 to attend.
Yeah, it's a bunch of hippies running around doing drugs. It's yuppies from Silicon Valley. Like
that's what it's become.
They've created an airport just for those yuppies from Silicon Valley. And I'm telling you, if plague had broke out at, like, if people started dying of it doesn't even have to be plague. It could have been whatever. You know, the zombie apocalypse starts at Burning Man. There'd have been fucking $1 million jets fleeing that place faster than you can fucking. They wouldn't have been, you know, the 10 sheriff deputies that are out there to try and keep control.
Well, you
wouldn't
had
have been
people
able to stop those people from leaving
because they actually did stop vehicles from leaving for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But you had people that were walking out. They were hiking out 5 miles to get out. There were people that did get out.
I mean, after the thought, I was thinking, man, if you think about an incubation place, that would be perfect because those, like Burning Man is one of those things that everybody leaves from, right? Everybody leaves from, and they disperse all over the world, all over the country. So I think they shouldn't have Burning Man anymore.
Or Bonnaroo. Any of those places. Bonnaroo would be another fucking good target. That'd be a target too.
So, yeah, it's just interesting about what gets spread when it gets spread. So it's tough. There's a lot of, it's hard. There's a lot of fucking fake news out there, but then the problem is even the real news is not prosecutable anymore. So the reality is, I'll use Hunter Biden as an example. Who cares what's on his laptop? Like who cares? They're not going to do anything about it.
Correct. Like, I mean, we already know what's on the laptop.
I'll use Lanai as another example, right? Terrible tragedy. But there is public display. There are government officials who willfully denied the people of Lanai water,
insulin,
fire services. Again, those are criminal acts. Like the dude who was in charge of the water and is just like, I'm not turning the water on because of the fucking fire. Arrested. He should have been arrested. The police chief should have been arrested.
Well, the only people that survived civil disobedience, they were told like the roadblocks, not letting the vehicles out. The only reason those people didn't all cook up in those vehicles is because they got in the ocean.
Yes.
The only people they were told to shelter in place, not leave. The only people that are still here to tell the story are the people that went against what the government told them to do.
And shelter again. From a emergency response. Okay, let's just say emergency response. At no time ever in the history of emergency responses during a fire has shelter in place been the order. Never once. So they can't, it's not like they can go, well, we looked at the emergency handbook and the emergency handbook said it'll be best if they shelter in place. No, these are people making up rules as they go. And so again, criminal negligence. If the sheriff or the police chief or whoever it was did actually, if those deputies had orders to not allow people to evacuate from the fire, that's criminal negligence. All those people should be arrested. All those people should be tried for at least manslaughter. And any other time in history, that's what would happen. Any other time in history, the FBI would have shown up and they would have been like, really? That's the orders you gave that killed all these people? You're under arrest. Any other time in history. But because we have a Bobo as a president and an FBI that's more concerned about parent PTA meetings than actual criminal acts, you get this. And so it's very hard to get invested in something that for a fact the government's not going to go do anything about. It's like, did you see that they just charged Ray Epps?
Yeah, with one misdemeanor.
Yeah, they just charged Ray Epps with a fucking slap on the hand. All fucking day, CNN has been like, oh my God, I can't believe they charged Ray Epps. I can't believe this is a witch hunt. It's Fox News. It's Tucker Carlson. Blah blah blah. All day,
but you have people who literally walked on the lawn that got 2 years.
Literally walked on the lawn that got 2 years.
You've got the Proud Boy guy who wasn't even in D.C.
I don't hear CNN News defending any other January 6 people who are being prosecuted.
I mean, I don't hear them. They were issued their fucking,
because CNN is a shill
script,
a shill corporation that is doing the bidding of federal agencies. They are not a news outlet.
I think most of those.
I mean, that's why Fox. That's why Fox News fired Tucker, is because the federal powers that be were like, hey, you need to knock that shit off. Ray Epps. Like, the reality is, you have actual video of Ray Epps talking about storming the Capitol, inciting riot. You have video of him doing that. All these other people...
he has the text messages to his family members saying he incited it.
All these other people...
Or he led it.
All these other people that they have in jail, you don't have them. You don't have anything. You don't even have nearly the evidence that you have against Ray Epps, and you didn't even charge him. Which means he was a federal informant. He was there at behest of the federal government, and he was doing exactly what his handlers told him to do, and that's why he's getting a slap on the wrist. Bet he doesn't spend 1 minute in jail.
What's his background? What did he do prior to this,
it doesn't matter as a federal informant, right? If you're a federal informant, could be, I mean, who knows? Maybe Ray Epps was a Trump supporter, and maybe Ray Epps owed a bunch of tax money. And maybe the feds
do have who's Alex Jones's guy that's just got 2 months and
I don't know.
He said that when they came in, they wanted him to basically say that Trump incited this, and he's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah,
and that was the big push, is they were trying to get, because I mean, that's how the federal system works. 85% of the people in the feds are there because somebody told on them. I mean, I was there 22 months when they hauled me back at 11 months and said, "We're going to let you out today if you'll testify against Josh." I mean, that's how that system works.
I don't even understand. Again, so trivial. Like, it's so trivial. Like, at that level, there are such heinous. They're like, again, all crime is crime if it's crime. But there is such heinous things going on in this world. Like, there is such crazy, heinous shit going on in this country. I don't understand how a law enforcement agency, a prosecuting agency, has even time for that. Like, time.
Back up and look at.
Time for it.
Back up and look at our thing, right? My thing.
Yeah.
What were they after? Like, what did they actually think they were getting?
Well, I think, we know what they thought they were getting. We thought they were getting some big fucking, crime family that was robbing trains or something. And I think that is, again, that was the link. That's what got the investigation started. But the problem is, when you're at that level and you spend money, you start spending money, you can't, at no point, you will never ever hear about this at that level. You will never ever hear them go, there's really nothing here. We thought we had something, but there's really nothing here. So it's in their best interest at the point of we thought there was nothing here, to make something more of what they don't have, right? So again, unfortunately, if they really put everybody under the microscope, I mean, you could take, the choir boy of choir boys. If they put you under the microscope, there is something that they can find to prosecute you in a federal court.
Well, that's what my attorney said. He said, "You can go to trial." He goes, "You can explain what this was." He goes, "But somebody's going to jail." He goes, they've already come out on $1.8 million, 18 months of investigation, and they've already said it on CNN. He goes, they're never going to come out and go, "Oh, we were wrong." He said,
they never do that.
"This is here it is on CNN right here."
They never do. They never come out and say they were wrong. Like, even like when you think about COVID and all the crazy shit they did during COVID,
they're going to redo it.
The powers that be have not come out and said, hey, unfortunately, we overreacted. Because the reality is they could do this, right? The CDC and, Fauci could come out and go, they could come out today, or probably not today because it would seem like you're trying to cover yourself. But let's say 2 years ago, they came out and they said, hey, we overreacted. Unfortunately, we overreacted in the response to COVID because at the time we believed it was going to be worse than it was. And so we thought what we were doing was within your best was in the best interest of the country. We're sorry for that. We did overreact. We will attempt to not do that again. America is a great place for forgiveness. We forgive everybody. I mean, we forgive Caitlyn Jenner for running over that little old lady. We forgive everybody.
I don't even know. Go ahead.
Is
Caitlyn the guy that used to be
Bruce?
The girl? Okay.
We forgive everybody. We like a comeback, and we would forgive. But instead of asking forgiveness, they doubled down. But the reality is, the judicial system in this country, while it is slow and while it sometimes doesn't work properly, blah blah blah, in the COVID cases, it is working properly, and it took time to get through the courts, but the party line of the government is losing its ass in the courts.
Well, you did have Canada, Australia, and the United States, a few other countries, all on the same day come out with press conferences that said, we didn't mandate and require that you take this thing.
Yeah, that's just gaslighting, guys.
Yeah, we didn't make you do this. You did this on your own.
The cool thing that it's interesting is, if you just go back 50 years, like if you go back 50 years, the government could come out and go, no, we didn't mandate that. You guys did that to yourselves. We were just telling you that it was dangerous. And 50 years ago, people would have been like,
I don't have that newspaper anymore.
Maybe we did overreact. Maybe it was us. But again, the problem with modern technology, which I don't think the liberal hive mind has understands how modern technology is the fact that, again, the video of Dr. Fauci talking about telling the president of the United States to mandate these things, it's out there, and you can look it up, and you can see. You can actually watch the videos of these motherfuckers doing what they said they are telling you they're not. So they're just gaslighting.
Yeah, I mean, you had Don Lemon, Joy Behar, or whatever her name is. You had another crazy female CNN bitch, and talking about putting people in prison who didn't take that thing.
But which is interesting because not only putting people in prison, they were talking about executing people. That was Trudeau, about killing people because they don't want to take the shot. The interesting thing is gaslighting is like a number one indicator of a sociopath.
Well, I think Trudeau was just
all sociopaths.
I think Trudeau was on TV or somewhere yesterday, and they were yelling him down. He's smiling like it wasn't happening, but they're doing all the mandate shit again in Canada coming up. So
yeah, Trudeau is the for Canada. Trudeau, hey Canadians, Trudeau's an antichrist. He's the worst thing that's ever happened to Canada. Like you would have been better off if Canada. You guys would have been better off if we'd have won that war of 1812.
You seen all the stuff after Katrina about the FEMA trailers and such, all the FEMA trailers. FEMA brought in all these housing for people that lost all their houses, but they were really terrible. They weren't like mobile homes. They were like these sheds that they riv. They're kind of like these race trailers out here.
But again, go ahead. You finish what you were
saying.
No,
what were you going to say? I'm going somewhere.
I was going to say, but again,
is it better than what they had?
I'm tired of everybody thinking that the government is somehow supposed to
correct,
right all your wrongs. Those were temporary housing. And if you're bitching now, if anybody's still living in those things and you're
right, you're mad that you're Obama.
Like, oh my God, the fucking walls are falling apart. You got more problems than blaming FEMA because, again, I'm not a big fan of FEMA because it's just government bureaucracy that is too slow to respond to anything that is necessary for real American people, and they waste billions and billions of dollars on management. But again, if you're bitching about FEMA's temporary housing,
okay,
you're lucky you didn't get a goddamn tent.
So the FEMA housing did look to be, I don't know, 10 by 20, 10 by 30, right? There were these kind of trailer house things. The Australian COVID camps looked like they were 10 by 10 pods. We watched a video prior to starting this recording here, and there's some video going around. I believe it's from TikTok. I sent it to 15, 20 people yesterday. We watched it, and what these guys are building is they're building these 10 by 10 pods. They're self-contained. They have a bed in them. They have a little kitchenette thing in them, and then they have like an AC unit, a mini split, so that's heat and air. But it has what everybody's talking about, and this is a compilation of 5 or 6 different videos to make this video, to include somebody who they say he's a whistleblower at the manufacturing plant building these things. There's a gas port that comes in. There's also an alarm on the outside on the gas line, and what they're saying is that you can actually they can just euthanize people. So the beginning of the video looks like they're talking on the island. We're putting these on the island for the homeless people. So I assume Hawaii, but I don't know. It could even be some island that's not part of the United States. And then you have a dude who's in the COVID camp, which obviously has a recording. I guess where they were allowed to have their cell phones while in COVID lockdown in Australia. And you overhear a dude kind of losing his shit, and somebody who sounds to be a guard or one of the keepers there at the zoo. And he said, if you don't calm down, we're going to gas you. And he goes, yeah, just fucking gas me. Now, what does gas me mean? I mean, if they're going to gas you while you're in prison, that means they're going to throw OC or pepper spray or something in there with a launcher. Maybe that's what that was. Or maybe it meant, hey, we're going to actually turn you off. So, but this does look like there's a gas line coming in. Jeff did point out, hey, that alarm there, that means that there's a leak, or stay away from this thing. I don't know. What's your take on that? Maybe I'll send you that link. Maybe we can embed it into the links in this.
All things, it's one of those things, and the liberal hive mind will be like slippery slope. All things they start innocent, right?
The Nazis did.
Yes, all things start innocently. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. The ovens, the huge ovens,
Ohio,
that were in Dachau, were made in Ohio. Now
you will, if you go search this, you will find information that says, oh, that's not true.
It's true.
If you search 4 or 5 pages or a different search engine, you will see interviews of the family that made the ovens.
There's actual pictures. There are actual pictures of soldiers standing next to the doors that have
Ohio
manufacturing. It's all in American, anyways.
Now, with that said, I tell you guys all the time that during the Obama administration, there was 18,000 guillotines. I saw all kinds of video about that shit. Brandel went and searched this when we talked about it a couple weeks ago, and we couldn't find anything other than some website that said that it was not true.
But again, there's actually no reason to deny the ovens that were in Dachau, because the reality is the reason why they manufactured those big ovens for Germany for a specific person is Germany had, at the end of World War I, were plunged into extreme poverty, and they had a cholera outbreak, and so they needed a way to cremate a ton of bodies. And that's what those furnaces were made for, was for this cholera outbreak at the end of World War I. Obviously, the Germans repurposed them for other cremations, but innocent beginnings. And an example would be, the Germans didn't just round up Jewish population.
It didn't even start with Jewish population.
And throw them in the ovens. They didn't do that. They started with their most vulnerable. They're people who were
mental asylums,
people who had diseases that were uncurable. They started there. Eugenics. It's all part of the eugenics project, but they started there. And at every level they went to, when the Germans were doing this, at every level they kind of did the Saddam Hussein thing before he went into Kuwait. They looked. The Germans went, hey, all these infirm people, we're gonna euthanize them and kill them. And they looked. And the rest of the world went, sounds good.
The United States was doing that.
And then they went, hey, these when we say undesirables, we're kind of talking about like, Jews. No, I'm sorry, they didn't start there. They went gypsies. They went after the most vulnerable first.
Homosexuals.
And everybody went. They went again. The Germans really went every step they made, every time they stepped out of the realm of normality in the rest of the world. They looked, and nobody said anything. Nobody said anything. When they did the first roundup, the first roundup in the Jewish community, they tried to send them to America.
They sent 3 ships.
They tried to send them to America, and when those ships got to America, America went, no, not really what we're looking for. And so at that point, the Germans were like, nobody else in the world cares. Nobody cares. So we can do whatever we want. It's baby steps. It's the same thing that the Democratic Party is doing right now with acts of treason. It's baby steps. It's baby steps. They're not just gonna hand the keys of the castle over to the Chinese or the Russians right immediately. It's baby steps. First, we're going to use mass corruption. Or first, we're going to have an elected official sleep with a Chinese spy and see what happens. They didn't even censor that motherfucker. And he was sleeping with a known Chinese spy. Now we're going to have a general come out and talk about treason. All these things, baby steps. Baby steps. Same thing with everything that they've done to take away your freedoms. It's baby steps. They're not just going to come out one day and go, the Constitution, we're suspending the Constitution, because that creates a problem that all Americans could get behind and go, fuck you, we're not dealing with you goddamn communists anymore. But baby steps. We can just keep chipping away at your constitutional rights until you don't really have any. The Constitution is still there. It's nice and pretty underneath its glass and looks cool. But if no one in the government is willing to stand for that Constitution and they are all willing to break those laws, you stand no chance, right? You stand no chance. And that's how it is always done. It's done with baby steps. So again, it wouldn't surprise me one bit. Trudeau's an example. Trudeau, they've already talked about euthanizing people in
No, they already
Canada.
are. They've
already talked about getting rid of the, should a veteran get a wheelchair or should that veteran be euthanized? How can you even have that conversation? Those people are fucking Nazis. Trudeau should have a big swastika cut right in his forehead because Canada is going down that route. Canada is going down that route, and before long, are you guys going to euthanize the homeless because they don't provide a productive means to the end results, meaning they're not paying taxes, and so Trudeau can't keep getting rich.
Well, look at how many government programs actually do pick up homeless people, and then you have movies made of that also.
Yeah,
they actually do pick up homeless people, and they use them for medical experimentation.
Yeah. So Australia, which it doesn't make any sense. I feel like
a colony of criminals and prisoners. Yeah,
I feel like the Australian the Australian just motto for surviving. Meaning, I would think that Australia I'm sorry, I'm wrong.
Disarmed,
but I would think that Australia would be the freest place on the earth. That as a former penal colony, you would understand having your rights taken away from you. I would think it'd be the freest place in the earth, but again, it's not. It's you guys have gone the way of the communist dodo bird, which is too bad. And I may be over speaking it, but again, you guys are building COVID camps.
Well, they can only have bolt action rifles.
You guys are building COVID camps, so that's not one time in history where the people who are building camps for the undesirables have ever been on the right side of history.
But we build camps here in the United States. There's camps all over the place. They weren't.
Well, the camps that were occupied those people were not on the right side of history. Again, hey Democrats, you are the ones that have, you are the only party who's ever denied property and locked people up in concentration camps. So, it's just, and yes, if those videos that are out there are right, again, alarm on the outside. If you have an alarm on the outside of a building, that is the only purpose of an alarm on the outside of a structure is to warn the people that are outside. Not the people inside. And so why do you have a gas line that pumps into a building that needs an alarm, especially when you're talking about a large camp? Because again, those rooms, those cells that they're actually building, they're not going to have gas stoves. They're not going to have gas heaters because it's a camp. All that stuff is going to be provided from an outside source, or it's going to be electric. So it doesn't make any sense whatsoever it doesn't make any sense to have a 2-inch gas line going into a fucking 10 by 10 unless you're pumping something in there that is dangerous
or sedates, makes you docile.
Well, again,
right.
I say slippery slope. Maybe
I'm with you 100%. I'm already
maybe somebody
100% conspiracy theory.
Maybe somebody's like, hey, you know what'd be a great idea is if we created these homeless camps. We put all these homeless people in these camps. We start taking care of their needs. We provide them with, we provide them with mental health services. We provide them with financial aid to get them on their feet. And we, obviously, a lot of homeless people are drug offenders, are using drugs. Clean. So we're gonna have to create a scenario where they can't get out. So it's gonna have to be like a jail cell. But we'll take care of their needs and we'll do what we can to get them off drugs, right? You could create a foundation that says this is a great idea, right? And you could also create a foundation where you're like, some of these people are going to get out of hand because they're not going to want to be locked up. So we might have to do something to get them under control. So maybe we put so the officers don't have to make contact with the individual. Maybe we put a little port over here that we can spray in some CS to calm them down, right? It's a viable option. It's something that people would go, you know what? You might be right. But if you can put CS in there, you can put sarin in there. If you can put sarin in there, you can put carbon monoxide. Yeah, it's just a death trailer, right? It's a death trailer.
Or you warehouse these people and you type match them until you sell the organs. Like you can go to China right now. They're building these hospitals that are like 10,000 bed hospitals. Look this shit up. Yeah. There's like the UN has done videos on this. Like there's tons of videos on this stuff about medical tourism in China. And you can go and actually schedule a heart transplant, right? Here, if you need a heart, you wait until a heart pops up and then you have to rush in and you somebody has died in order to have that heart. And you're on that list for years. A lot of people actually die on that list.
It takes time. If you're operating on a donor pool like we operate here in the United States, where it's people who die, and so you're operating on this donor pool of where you're going to get these organs, it takes time to find. First off, it takes time to find the organ that you need, and it takes time to type match so that your body doesn't immediately just flush that organ down the toilet. It takes time to find that. The Chinese can do that in 24 hours.
Not only that, you can schedule that a week from now, 6 weeks from now, and they will guarantee up to 6 organs. So if you need a heart, they have 7 people on deck that they're going to kill right then.
Yep. The only way it would be possible for them to be able to identify an organ in 24 hours
if they've already had it.
If they've already type matched everybody and they've already ran them through a database and they're like, oh, Brandel has the heart we need. And we know exactly where Brandel is in. We're exactly where Brandel's at because we've got him locked up. That's how the Chinese are doing it. The Chinese are wholesale slaughtering people for their organs. And, it happens to be a Muslim population that they don't agree with. That is mostly who it is. But again, it's prisoners.
That's where all of the Uyghur Muslims, they had really long hair. They shaved their hair down. They were using them for human wigs and stuff.
Yeah, again, there is so much. It's amazing how many governments. To me, it's just amazing how many governments around the world are just becoming Nazis. Like, it's just like everything that we said was bad about the Nazis, and everything that we say is bad about the Nazis still today, History Channel.
And now you completely pussified Germany.
Everything that we said was bad about the Nazis. All these governments are implementing those Nazi ideas and trying to control people the same way the Nazis did. Who was
the president?
Trudeau, you fucking
Who was
French
the president
biscuit.
when all the Nazi camps were going on? Who was the president?
Roosevelt? Or wait, are you here in the United States?
Yes, who was
it? Was
he?
Roosevelt.
Okay, do you know that he was
raving lunatic Democrat?
He was at Dachau. He was at all these other places. He was in Germany like dozens of times. There was all this correspondence and shit between him and Hitler. IBM, look up a book called IBM and the Holocaust. He actually goes into all of this. Unfortunately, that book's not on audiobooks, but if you search IBM and the Holocaust, he was actually on a 90-minute interview with Glenn Beck. Fucking insane.
It's not just, I mean.
No, and he spells it out. Like you had GM and Ford utilizing those plants for manufacturing facilities for parts for GM and Ford vehicles.
It's hard to, again, hindsight is 20/20.
Well,
right?
power, absolutely, power corrupts absolutely.
But,
right? They have no oversight.
But I say hindsight is 20/20, and what I mean by that is, all through the 30s. If we take a look at the rise of Adolf Hitler and through the 30s, all through the 30s, the powers that be, whether it was Winston Churchill, Roosevelt, it didn't matter. All through the 30s, they praised Adolf Hitler. Like he was the guy that was fixing Germany.
He was Man
right?
of the Year on Time magazine.
So it's not, again, it wouldn't be, I don't know how to say again. It wouldn't be unheard of for example, for Ford Motor Company to have a plant in Germany in the 30s because he was fixing. We didn't at that time period. Like at the time period, again, hindsight's 20/20. We think of Adolf Hitler as this fucking evil madman, right? But in 1930, 1934, nobody thought that. Like. The motherfucker was Time Magazine of year of the Time Magazine's Man of the Year. We believe that he was fixing Germany.
Had Nazi party marches in
Madison Square Garden in 34, I believe it was filled with Nazis, not German Nazis.
They were Democrat.
U.S.
Nazis.
Democrats. So
in uniforms with armbands
and everything. Shit. Yeah. We looked at that. The world, for the most part, looked at Adolf Hitler as a good thing for Europe. That he was doing good things and was going to fix Europe. Now, ultimately, he understood what most people didn't understand was that war was the only thing that really fixes an economy. And Adolf had some revenge in mind. He really wanted to make the French and the British bow down to him after what happened in World War I. Again, which was our fault because instead of
the Versailles Treaty.
Yeah, instead of trying to end the suffering of war, we created a treaty that was undoable and made suffering more. And so that's how you get a fascist like that. Again, Adolf was a shit sandwich. But we created that shit sandwich.
Do you see any parallels between then and now? Current times?
Well, I mean, again, we have a dude in the White House who has
came out yesterday and said that he's not going to be alive to see the outcome of his son's trial.
Yeah, we have a dude who's in the White House who has no business being in the White House. None whatsoever. Like, again, if this was anywhere else in the country, like let's say instead of the president of the United States, let's say he was I don't know, let's say he was the head of
governor of New Mexico.
No, the head of the Ford Motor Company. If he was the head of the Ford Motor Company, the FBI would have already swooped in and arrested the entire board of directors for elder abuse. This whole incident with Joe Biden is elder abuse. He has no concept of what he's saying. He has no concept of what he's doing. He's being fed everything from an unelected body of individuals that are all, the reality is the entire, his entire administration is a bunch of wackos that have pushed us to the verge of nuclear war because they have no idea what they are doing. We are on the threshold of nuclear war, and Millie's worried about white dudes in the military. I mean, as a fucking, again.
So do you see the, I think it was the Army just came out, like you used to have to, you had to meet a certain physical requirement, right, to go to boot camp. That's out the window. That's out the window. Now they're like, hey, come on in, fat boys, and we'll help you lose the weight.
It's out the window.
Yeah,
because you can't, again, the military, the strengths of the military, and the reason why in the 80s and 90s we had such good recruitment and a strong voluntary force is the military always placated to the masculinity part of what it means to be a man. Right. So they always were like, hey, you want to jump out of helicopters?
It's not just a job, it's an adventure.
You want to shoot machine guns?
Go to foreign places, meet interesting people, and kill them.
Even today, that's what an 18-year-old wants to do. Like an 18-year-old wants to Call of Duty. He doesn't want to go to woke camp. And that's what the military has turned into.
You see, Call of Duty is actually recording all conversation.
Yeah, they had to because
they're banning people and shit.
Well, it's not that.
A lot of stuff takes place in those places.
Yes, a lot of private. There's a lot of
apparently in Minecraft,
a lot of private
there's a
chat rooms that you can go into, and so that's why they're recording it all because
getting radicalized and shit. All
Bin Laden.
I gotta pee. You want to keep talking, or
no? I'm gonna go.
What were we talking about?
Podcast 47. I don't know what we were talking about, motherfuckers, or
no, we were talking about what were we talking about?
Terrorists.
No, before terrorists.
Bin Laden playing video games.
Were we talking about that while the recorder was going?
I don't know. I don't know if it was or not.
Okay.
Anyways, he loves his video games.
Or
he used to love his video games. Now he loves his 7-Eleven. What's up?
I'll bet he's still alive.
Nah, they killed the shit out of him.
Yeah, Sean Ryan just had the dude on that says he shot him.
They killed the shit out of him. The dude that killed him is the dude that actually killed Bin Laden is Red, which is the point man, and we're never going to hear from Red. Everyone that went into that room shot him. So again,
Yeah, this dude said he was coming up a stairwell.
Yeah.
And they knew who the dude up there, his bodyguard, was, so he called out to him in two different.
That was Red.
So that dude was on Sean Ryan's show. Uh-huh. That guy was just on Sean's show.
Well, anyways, that's a long, convoluted story.
How do you know about that? You've just watched a lot of content on it, or you read a book?
I just recently watched the official, the real debrief, not the leaked Navy SEAL stories.
How did you get to see that?
By accident.
Got it.
And just by accident. But the official story and the individual that Sean Ryan had on his show was actually the number 2 man. Red, Red, which is the point man, the number 1 man, is the actual guy who killed Bin Laden's son and killed Bin Laden. Everyone else is taking secondhand credit because they are no longer in the teams.
Aren't they all?
They want to make money.
They're all wearing video at this point.
I don't know if they were. I mean, I guess there had to been people. There had to been people within the stack that had helmet cams,
and the dogs all.
But
have
I don't
cameras
think.
And shit.
I don't think that. Again, when you're at that level, right? When you're at the tier level, when you're at that level, even from a like the president of the United States, right? It's the president of the United States who makes that call. It was Obama who got to make that call.
Well, I assume that they're watching it from.
They're watching what they can, right? So when you see all those knuckleheads in the room and they're all staring at the screen, what they're watching is the helicopter that is flying over that's videotaping all the white dots, the thermal dots moving around on the target site, or the Predator drone. It probably was a Predator drone, not a helicopter.
What about the helicopter that crashed? That stealth helicopter.
Yeah, we fucked it. That was actually a pretty they gloss over it, but it was a pretty big fuck up. Like, and when I say fuck up, meaning that they left too much of the aircraft. They left too much of the aircraft intact. So there was too much of that aircraft that was left behind that immediately went to China. And so the Chinese, I mean, maybe still are trying to reverse engineer that technology, but they left too much of it intact. Like,
does China just have like a fucking embassy right there? I mean, how did China get there on target so quickly?
Because the Pakistanis were like, hey, look what we found. And then the Chinese are like, here's some money. We want it. Everything's for sale in Pakistan. Unfortunately, it's a third world country.
Like everything's for sale in this country.
Everything's for sale. Well, it's for sale for a lot cheaper. Like me and you, we probably could have called the Pakistanis and been like, hey, it'd be really cool if you sold us that. And they'd be like, how much you got?
We just want to put it on a pole out front.
Yeah, we just want to put it on a pole out front. But they left too much of that aircraft intact. I know that, again, collateral damage is a big concern with a lot of people. But they probably should have, the SEALs probably should have put a strobe on that motherfucker and had a fucking Raptor come in and drop a 2,000-pound bomb on it. There shouldn't have been nothing left of it because the Chinese are going to make one. It's probably not going to be as good as ours, but they're going to make one. And they're going to make one only at the behest that they were able to get that fucking piece of that helicopter. So that's too bad. But yeah, again, when we talk about the President of the United States, they know that there's certain wild cards. Like even when they send tier 1 in to go do something, it's a fluid operation. Things happen. And you do want a bit of plausible deniability. The president does not want to have to answer for someone on the target site that does something that is not within policy. Right. And if it's on tape, it's usable, and tape always gets out. So they don't want something that's actionable on the ground. While some people will say that they do want to see all that stuff, I know they made helmet cams for CAG, where every bit of it was recorded, but it was recorded at the operator level. So that's easily, it's like fucking police body cams. Every time they're getting ready to discuss what they're going to do, they turn their cameras off. Yep. If it's within the law, there's no reason to turn the camera off.
They sure hate it when you have one, though.
Yeah, if you're operating within the law, there's no reason to turn your camera off. But again, you want to have a bit of plausible deniability especially when you think about Bin Laden, right? Because we're talking about somebody that has started 2 wars in 2 different countries, responsible for the World Trade Center debacle.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, 100% responsible for the World Trade Center. You have this, like even me, I thought, I was like, if I was in Delta Force, I'd have captured that motherfucker, brought him back to New York, stripped him down naked and been like, hey, there's the ocean, bitch. You better start running because these people are going to come after you. Let New York have Bin Laden. See what they want to do with them, right? Dumb, naive kid, but that would be my thought. But again, you just want you want that level of plausible deniability as the president. You don't want to be fucking you. The last thing you want to do, even though Obama is a war crime, he did commit war crimes. you don't want to be staring it in the, you know what I'm saying? The last thing you want is a fucking video that gets leaked to the Times and they're like, hey, is this you sitting in this chair watching this fucking war crime happen that you didn't do anything about? I mean, I think presidents can get away with it. I mean, he got away with killing American citizens without due process. So
we know a guy that said that the reason they actually wrapped bin Laden up and threw him off the ship is because he was so damaged. Everybody in the platoon actually shot that dude. Even after he was dead, they shot him.
But that's a thing that most people don't understand at that level. Okay, you could say that everybody shot bin Laden. You could say that everybody shot bin Laden when they got up the stairs because it was bin Laden.
Well, he's saying no, that's not what actually happened.
Well, again, you could say that's why they did it.
It's just like pissing on the dude.
The reality,
it's the same.
No, they do is they have a name for it. I can't. It's not ganging up. It's when you're
now you're an accomplice.
No, it's not that. It's when you're at that level again, tier asset. You're probably again, they don't use fucking tier 1 assets for the milk run. Again, they've done milk runs, but you're not supposed to use tier 1 for the milk run. You're supposed to use tier 1 for the hard target, right? The hard target. And bin Laden was the hard target because we had intel, but did we have intel? They didn't know if fucking the Pakistani army was going to completely immobilize and come to his rescue, or whether there was, 1,000 fighters hiding in a bunker below his, you know what I'm saying? So that's a hard target, and so you have to send the heavy hitters, right? You have to send the heavy hitters. The heavy hitters, when they're doing that type of operation, you don't pass a dead body.
Right.
So again, point man breaks the room. There's a dude there. Boom, boom, shoots. He moves. He's not hanging out. Number 2 man comes around. There's a dip. Boom, boom. He shoots too.
Right. You don't know if somebody crawled there.
Yeah, we gang up. They gang up on dead bodies. So it's customary. It's customary for them to shoot multiple times, right? So it's not like it's not a like if one of us goes to jail, we all go to jail, because at the tier 1 level, nobody's going to jail. They're there at the behest of the President of the United States. So unless they do something crazy like I don't know, pull out a tomahawk and start cutting people's heads off,
also acceptable.
That might be a problem, but again, they're there at the behest of the President of the United States, and if the President of the United States says this needs to be done, then it needs to be done. So you don't pass a dead body. Even Billy, which is crazy because, Billy's a frogman. Billy was a UDT guy from the fucking 60s.
When we talk about Billy, people don't realize that Billy was actually part of Mob 6. He was with Red Cell. That was Marcinko's dude.
Even Billy got in trouble. So you think about this. He had to have been at this time. So he was adjuncting for the sheriff's department in Las Vegas. And he had to have been out of the Navy for at least 40 years.
That's 40.
At least 40 years. Because he retired from the Navy, retired from the Navy, retired from the fire department, and was in his retirement years while he's the number one machine gun mechanic in Las Vegas, and also adjuncting as a marksmanship instructor for the sheriff's department. And they got this multi-million-dollar. They got this
fat system.
Yeah, they got this multi-million-dollar training thing where you could shoot targets on the screen, but you could walk.
Yeah, it had like a
treadmill or something, but
an escalator belt.
But the scenario would pass you. And so he's doing this scenario with another police officer. Boom, boom, bad guy gets shot, and they're walking. And Billy's like, they're walking, and as soon as the bad guy gets almost parallel to him, Billy's just like, boom, boom, puts 2 more in and keeps going. And afterwards, they're like, "What the fuck, Billy? You can't just be blasting. You can't just be blasting people who are already dead." And he's like, "Never walk past a dead body."
Yeah, plenty of people have been killed by dead men.
Plenty of people have been killed by dead men. So again, that's that at that level, they're not when everybody in the team, when everybody in the squadron or team or whatever you want to say at that level, when they're shooting guys that are already down, it's not a oh, I need to make sure if everybody does it, then we're all culpable. No, it's to ensure that is no longer a threat, because again, at that level, when you're moving that fast, it wouldn't be nothing for a dude to just fall out behind a couch and pretend like he's dead, and now you've got this fucking bad guy who's behind you. So it's better to just be sure and boom, boom. And so, like, even when everybody was going through the room and they were shooting bin Laden, they didn't know it was bin Laden. Like, they did not know. They had to type test his ass. They fucking DNA tested his ass to ensure it was him. Did the same thing. The point man, he actually pushes the females off into the corner. And so everybody shoots, target's secure, they're going to do SCC, they're still bringing the family members over going, who the fuck is that? Right? Who is that? Because you have to, what people don't understand is when you watch a movie, everything's a lot more clear. But these guys are in a completely darked out environment. Yes, they're using state-of-the-art NVGs, but even those NVGs in 100% darkness, which is what they were operating in, it's still a fucking murky world that they're operating in. It's not fucking clear TV bullshit. It's a fucking murky world they're operating in. And did they... 100%, I saw a target. Boom, boom. 100%, I saw a target. But nobody was going, that's bin Laden's son. That's fucking bin Laden's. That's they were identifying these guys after the fact, right? It was just kill everybody on target, and let's make sure we got, oh boy. And so, yes, did everybody mob up on that target on the top floor? Yep. They mobbed up, and one of them fucked up and shot him in the face. And because he shot him in the face, they had to do DNA shit. And you can't really go, hey, America, look, we killed bin Laden, and his head's canoed wide open and shit. And you're like, oh God, what the fuck? They had no choice but to throw him in the ocean because he was fucked up. And, whether it was a lie or not, I do like the idea that that they can't visit him, right? That the reality is if they would have put him anywhere, that had a physical location, eventually people would have found out where that physical location is, and eventually people would use that as a fucking, call to prayer or a place to go to, blah, blah, blah. I am sure that the physical location, the physical location within the ocean is known by a bunch of people. And I am sure that the physical location, where it was in the ocean is probably in the bad guy world now, that they know where it was. But again, it's kind of hard to mecca out to the middle of the fucking Indian or whatever ocean they were in. And
so when you're watching movies and stuff about, Middle East and stuff, you always hear the call to prayer.
Yeah.
And it echoes all through the city. I recently heard that New York, they're building mosques all through New York, and they're doing this call to prayer that echoes all through the city. Is that
it's true?
Does that happen now in the United States, for instance?
Yeah, it happens.
I've never been around a mosque. How many miles do you hear that call to prayer? And is that a common thing, or is that a new thing?
Well, I would say large. I would say it's more common now than it was before 9/11. We as a country tend to overcorrect. We overcorrect on a lot of things. So like if we feel that a certain ethnicity or a certain group has been marginalized, we'll overcorrect in a manner that makes it. We'll overcorrect in a manner
which crosses over the opposite
where it just
direction.
crosses over into the other direction where you're like, oh, now they're just fucking annoying or whatever. But they compare the case in New York City was they compared church bells to call to prayer, and said if the Catholic Church can do church bells, then the Muslim churches can do call to prayer. The difference here is this. And this is why I say no. Not at a broadcast level. meaning if they want to have somebody up there doing a prayer call, if they want to have somebody up the top church doing a prayer call at regular voice level, not amplified level, I have no problem with that. But the problem with the call to prayer is church bells send no message. Church bells is just saying, come to church. A call to prayer is telling people information. They are communicating information when they do a call to prayer. It's not the same thing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they are communicating.
So it's not a recording. It's a dude up there with a microphone. Yeah,
I'm sure it's a dude in the whatever room. Now, that might in itself might not necessarily be bad, right? We don't know. We don't know what's there are perfectly good. Let me make this sound right. There are good Muslims practicing the faith like every other religion in a good, wholesome way. But the truth of the matter is, for example, I will use Iraq. They would use the call to prayer to send a message to fighters on what, where Americans were, what they would use that call of prayer to send an alternative message, not just a prayer.
Did we ever shut any of those down?
No, because
they're churches.
Because it's a religious implication that it was. The problem is it becomes a religious implication that we are there to shut down Muslims and not, keep these people safe or whatever. So that's kind of the same thing. We overcorrect in the United States. We allow them to throw the call to prayer, to broadcast the call to prayer, and that could be a problem because again, they're not going, hey man, you know what you really should do? Come to church and hang out and let's talk about the word.
What language is that?
Arabic. It's always in Arabic. Yes.
Even if it's African Muslims?
It's always in Arabic.
I did not know that.
It's always in Arabic. Because a good practicing Muslim will learn the word in the language of Muhammad.
So all of these combat age males coming into the United States currently could be activated
through a call to prayer. Yes.
Gotcha.
100% through a call to prayer.
Gotcha. So are you up to date?
But I mean, again, I'm not saying they're doing that.
Correct.
Because they could be activated. The reality is,
and it won't be all of them.
The reality is, all those military age males, if they are practicing Muslims, are going to go into the mosque. They are going to prostrate in the mosque, and that call to action could happen in there through the sermon. No different than a Catholic, no different than the Catholics. The Catholics could do a call to crusade inside the church, and nobody would be the wiser. But again,
when's the last time that's happened?
I don't know when the last time it happened. But it's been a minute.
Hundreds of years.
Yeah, but it's been a minute. Doesn't mean that the Pope couldn't call for a crusade today.
Do we have any documentation of a call to crusade?
Today? No, I don't think so.
Like written history?
Oh yeah. The church was all about. The church was all about.
I know. I've just never heard anything about.
Yeah, the church was all about writing it down and saying, "Hey, this is because you had to
cleanse these people."
Well, that was the thing. People at that time period, were so afraid of going to hell because of the way their lives were. They were so afraid to going to hell that the church, the part of the reason there was two reasons why you went. There's two reasons why you went on crusade: wealth and absolution of sin. And for a lot of people, the absolution of sin was the most important thing. When you see those dudes with the spikes or with the spears, and they're walking, that dude is going for absolution of sins. He wants forgiveness. And the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, promised that if you did, it was weird too, because they would put a time limit on it. They would put if you went and did Holy Roman Crusade, if you went to what is now Israel, and crusaded for 6 months, all your sins would be forgiven. So you would get absolution. So no matter what you did, to include what you did while you were there crusading, would be forgiven by the Lord, says the number 2 man in the Catholic, says the one who actually speaks to God, right?
To include their raping and pillaging.
What doesn't matter.
Right.
Absolution. Again, documented. The Crusaders attacked other Catholics, other Christians. The fucking Byzantine Empire was destroyed by not Saracens. It was destroyed by goddamn Roman or European Crusaders. Those European Crusaders became very wealthy because of all the stuff they stole from the Byzantine Empire. And they also were given absolution for their sins. So it was a plus. It was a win-win. Now, again, you would have to go over and fight Saracens, and the Saracens didn't want to give up, they didn't want to give up their territory, so there's a good chance you would get killed over there. But if you could get absolution for your sins and, become somewhat wealthy, because that was the thing about the New World that most people like. I mean, do they understand or don't understand? Is if you were a European, right? If we grew up in France, for example, everything was a birthright. So if you weren't wealthy, right. If you weren't part of the aristocrat, if you weren't part of the aristocrat class, you were just who you were. You were the farmer. You were the whatever. That's who you were. You had no upward mobility, and not only did you not have any upward mobility, but your children would have no upward mobility. The New World would change that. The New World would put people of lower classes in a position where they could create wealth and power that would bring them into the aristocrats. It would make them part of that, structure. And so that was the temptation of going on crusade. The crusade gave you an opportunity to move your station higher. And that's a valuable, I don't want to say valuable, but that is a serious temptation, right? That's a serious temptation. You think about what would you, not a millionaire anymore, because a millionaire doesn't really mean anything anymore, but what sins would you be willing to do against other people if at the end of that rainbow was absolution and you were going to be a billionaire?
Well, what sins would people bring upon modern day man currently, their neighbors, if they thought they could get it?
That's exactly what Bill Gates is doing.
Yeah.
He is a fucking crusader, but a crusader against all individuals, and is willing to kill anyone in his way in order to create this fucking utopia Disneyland where he gets to walk around and ride all the rides and nobody's bothering him. No booger eaters are around. That's what he wants. He wants the streets to be clean, not because they're clean, but because he's killed everybody that would have been living on the streets. Because those individuals are pure evil. No different than the Pope. The Pope was fucking pure evil. And
I think the majority of society believes that last statement you just made, right? When are they going to push back against that? When are they going to be like...
The problem is, again, I'm going to fall back on the same thing I always fall back on.
Comfortable.
We're comfy. We're comfy. We can, the President of the United States can kill a U.S. citizen in a foreign country without any due process because we're comfy. The minute we become uncomfortable is when they will become uncomfortable. They're going to,
Well, I feel like they're making more of society uncomfortable. Their dollar doesn't go as far. Fucking people are losing their properties. You have as soon as this college tuition thing, as soon as these student loans come back in effect, and all those parents that co-sign for their kids' loans. You don't think so?
No, it's not. Everybody's too comfortable. In America, we are fucking, the truth of the matter is when I say comfy, we are spoiled comfy. Like we are soup comfy. You go to, you give an example. You go to England, motherfucker, everybody doesn't have an air conditioner in England. Like they don't all have AC.
Well, I mean,
where you go,
a good example for the United States is just simply go to Tijuana.
But I mean, everybody in England does not have a fucking air conditioner. And that's England is on par with the United States. As far as technology, wealth, blah, blah, they're on par. And everybody doesn't have a goddamn air conditioner. You go to you go to the fucking projects here in Camden, or, you know, you can come to Waverly and look at the low-income housing in Waverly. They all got AC, right? They all got refrigerators. They all got TVs. We're at a level of comfort that is so outside the norm, right? It's so outside the norm. You know, again, I'm not going to say it's not happening in the United States, but the reality is, it's been a long motherfucking time. It's been a long time where the majority of Americans understood what it means to be hungry, right? All these, you know, millennials, Brando running around eating fucking food out of gas station shit. He does not know what he would do for a sandwich. Like, he's not been hungry to the point where he's like, I will motherfucking kill you for that grilled cheese sandwich. That's what I'm saying. We are so comfortable. We are so comfortable that it's like, you know what? Who cares if Nancy's stealing all that money? It's not real money. It's not really affecting me. You know, my lights are still on. My AC still works. Yeah. Are we are some people scraping by a little more than others? And is it tough? It's tough, but it ain't tough. Like, it's not tough. It's not, you know, 90% of the people in even Camden. You think Camden's one of those lower impoverished areas. On Sunday, you ain't out here at that little tiny Catholic church. There's not 400 people lined up to get some bread and soup because we're comfortable. When we get uncomfortable is when things start changing.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that, because in the local Facebook groups, I do more and more every day. Hey, who's giving out food, right? We have, I guess there's 4 food banks now. There's a couple churches doing it. We have 2 food banks. You are seeing that more, or maybe I'm just sensitive to it.
Again, when you see it more, it's still not at the necessary level. When your peers are like, lost everything, I'm living in a tent when you start seeing your peers say that shit, that's the type of uncomfortable I'm talking about. That's right. The type of uncomfortable that the country has to go through in order to make realistic changes in these fucking representatives who don't represent America anymore. That's the type of, because it's like, you know, it's like when people argue about term limits, when they're like term limits. The problem with our government is not Nancy Pelosi. The problem with our government is the permanent government that has no term limits and is not elected, that is fucking pulling the strings on all those people. Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, all those people have to get reelected every fucking 4 years or 3, whatever it is for them, right? They have to get reelected. So you could get them out of office, but you choose not to vote for the people who want to make the changes. Keep voting for the fucking structure. So, you know, term limits ain't going to do you any good. It's not going to do a bit of good, because if you have term limits, what is going to happen with term limits is it's going to increase the amount of people that have to be in the permanent government so they can brief you whoever the new guy is that comes in every 4 years on this is how the government actually works. And this is how, no. If you want to fix the government, you have to vote those fucking dinosaurs out, and you have to put new blood in there, because the truth of the matter is, Nancy doesn't do anything for the American people because she's not afraid of the American people. She should be afraid of the American people. She should be afraid of being put on her fucking ass out in the streets and having to fucking, you know, live like the rest of us. But she's not.
Even if she had an epiphany and decided to do something for the American people, they would just cut off her adrenochrome. I mean, what is she, 90?
And they're old.
All of them. I mean, you got Mitch McConnell having fucking strokes on.
Yeah, they're all old, and they're all. But again, that's not
right.
That's not because of anything but bullshit voting.
Well, that's
because people are voting fucked up.
That's the Wizard of Oz. You're not seeing who's behind the fucking. We're focused on them. We're hating them.
Right. It's the permanent. Yeah. The again, Dianne Feinstein, and I'm sorry, I keep using. I'll use Ted Cruz. I'll use Ted Cruz just for you Democrats, so you can see that I'm not. I just don't hate.
You should Democrats. Ask Goggins how he feels about Ted Cruz.
I just hate politicians. I don't hate. Hate's such a strong word, but they're all corrupt.
There's a
Ted
Cruz.
Cruz doesn't.
There's a good Goggins interview out there on Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz doesn't write bills. Again, people with self-interests write those bills and give them to those people, and then they sign off on them. This is how they look at bills. They look at them just like this. They go,
what can I get away with?
What can I get away with? And does this affect me in any way? If it doesn't affect them in any way, and they can get some donations in their pocket, they're going to sign off that bill. Again, no, none of them. Fucking Crenshaw, he's not looking at any of that shit and going, what's best for America? Like, what is best for America? Because that is the only thing those people were elected to do, is to fucking do what's best for America. Not what's best for the UN, not what's best for the European Union, not what's best for China, what's best for fucking Americans. I mean, the reality is this is the sad part.
It's all World Wrestling Federation.
But I mean, here's the sad part. If you could get 80%, I'll even go even lower. If you get 70% of the elected officials in the United States, elected officials, mind you, if you get 70% of them to go, you know what? I'm only going to do what's best for America. I'm telling you, we'd be driving down streets paved in gold. We'd be driving down streets and paved in gold. We'd probably all be in flying cars, bumping into each other and shit. You know, crowns of jewels on our heads, going, God, it's great to be American. Woo! Because that's how much fucking money these morons fucking waste and spend everywhere else in the world.
But for you to have that, it has to take something away from them.
Everywhere in the world. Again, that's the crazy part. The crazy part, John, is they could all be rich. Like, again, they could all be rich too, but it's not.
They got to keep separation.
Yes, it's not the financial gain. It's the whales do not want to go. The whales do not want to go to Monte Carlo and see the booger eaters. They want to go and hang out with other whales. They don't want booger eaters, and that's the problem.
They don't want the middle class. They don't.
Well,
want that.
They don't. Not even middle.
They want a downward.
Yeah, not even middle class.
Yeah.
So you think like
right,
millionaires, right? Yeah. Millionaires. You're a millionaire. You can get you a little boat and go to Monte Carlo and roll the dice
once.
They don't want you there because, again, if you're a millionaire, they're like, peasant. You haven't oh my God, he hasn't even eaten a baby yet. Oh, the smell, just the pure stink of mortal man that is on you. I can't even be in the same room with you because you don't eat babies yet. So let's just, that's how they feel 100%.
All right. So before we get off of here, because we got to still do our Patreon, we have to do a Patreon video for the Patreon members. Does September 23rd mean anything to you, or October 4th?
Well, October 4th is the emergency. I suggest, if you have a phone, take your phone, get one of those Faraday bags.
$35, guys.
Get one of those Faraday bags, turn your phone off, put it in that Faraday bag on October 4th, put it in a drawer, don't fuck with your phone all day.
First off, order it today on Amazon.
Yeah.
If you would, please go to any of our videos or our website and click anything that says Amazon. It takes you to Amazon, and you can buy Faraday bags there. As soon as you get that Faraday bag, put your phone in it, leave it on, put your phone in there, and go get your girl's phone and call your phone and see if your phone rings. If your phone rings, the Faraday bag doesn't work.
Yeah, true.
If the phone doesn't ring, you know the Faraday bag works. That blocks all incoming signal to your phone.
I still say turn it off too.
Now, Amazon, we all know Amazon's the devil, but you guys like our videos. You might not have a need for the products that we create and build, but you can help support us by using our Amazon link. And all you have to do is click on Amazon, any link on any of my videos or the website. It takes you to Amazon. Anything you buy in the next 24 hours, it gives us a couple percentage points of that money.
You know what I think is going to happen?
What? Nothing?
I say
Y2K?
I say put your phone in there. And this is not because I think you're going to turn into a zombie or because of whatever. As a pure protest to the federal government saying that they can intrude on your life anytime you want, go ahead and make your phone unavailable for them to do that. Okay? Because this is what I think is going to happen. This is my opinion.
You know, Trump did this during the Trump.
Yeah.
None of our phones in here.
Yeah, it's not a. It's a
trip.
Which is a constant exercise.
Which is a trip. None of our phones went off when they did it. But every fucking time there's an Amber Alert within 500 miles of here. And none of our phones go off the same time.
Different system.
They go off multiple times all through the day. There's 20 phones in the building, but they ring over a period of 3 hours apart. It's weird.
It's a different system. And when they do these, what they're doing is they're trying to merge the systems to make them all work uniformly, right? So, but it's a different system. That's what this is. It's really the federal government going, hey, our system is 40 years older than everybody else's system. Can we plug this audio jack into your? That's really what they're doing. But I say protest this and don't let them have your phone. But this is what I think is going to happen. My opinion. If it works, because again, it might not work. It might be just like when Trump did it and. Some people get it, and some people don't get it.
If they're going to do that, why wouldn't they automatically ping every fucking computer also?
They probably are. But again, if it works, let's say the federal government is on point and they make it work. If it works, I think, it's just my opinion, that when you, on October 5th, when you pull your phone out of that Faraday cage and you turn it on, as soon as you get signal, your phone's going to go, hey, Dick, we missed you. But here's your notice.
Like it's waiting for you. Yeah.
That it's just going to be out there.
I mean, if they can force update your phone, right? You used to just be able to go out of it. But
it's just going to be out there in the universe.
But after 30 days, you have to, it automatically updates it. Yeah.
But good news. Here's the good news. The good news is if this is some sort of worldwide 5G conspiracy that's going to turn everybody into zombies. If your phone's in the
it's not everybody into zombies.
If your phone's in the bag, by the 5th you'll know. You'll be able to go.
Well, as fucked as that's going to be, the rules of engagement will definitely change. When the dude comes to your door trying to eat your face, and you smoke that fool, well, you don't have to worry about the cops coming because they're busy smoking fools too.
But wait a minute, did the rules of engagement really change?
Well, you don't have the repercussion of law.
Well, I mean, I don't think you have to. If a dude comes into your house and tries to eat your face, I don't think repercussion of law is there either.
Well, if one dude comes to your house tonight and tries to eat your face and you smoke him, they're still taking your shit. They're probably taking you into custody. Maybe. But if all of your neighbors get eaten or smoke fools trying to eat their faces, the rules of engagement have changed. So the calibration is different.
Calibration is different. What are we talking?
They're saying that people with the mRNA vaccinations, there's going to be a 5G pulse. It's going to pulse 3 times through this. At the same time, they're going to activate the 5G towers. And there is something in some of those that has some gene that releases this protein, and it actually causes a zombie-like state.
As a precaution, Brandel, as a precaution, it's on the 4th?
October 4th.
October 4th. On the 3rd, evening of the 3rd, you need to show up here. Show up here at the shop.
You guys are going to put me in a cage?
We're going to chain you up.
I actually have a cage.
We're going to chain you up. We're going to put chains on them too, though, because zombies get super strong. We're going to chain you up and make sure you're okay. We'll make sure you're okay. We'll make sure that you don't turn into a zombie.
Did you watch The Walking Dead?
If you do turn into a zombie, we'll take care of you as best we can.
There was dudes in The Walking Dead having sex with their ex-wives who were chained up.
It'll be like, have you seen Shaun of the Dead? It'll be like that. I'll have you locked in the shed and we'll play video games. And every now and then I'll bring you a dead rat or a possum or something.
6 of those shots at me. I'll be the first.
That's what I'm saying.
We'll feed you.
That's what I'm saying.
Because I think we'll get a cure.
That's what I'm saying. That's why you should come. You should come here on the 3rd, and let us chain you up like a damn werewolf. Chain you up, so that because what's worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is it happens. Nothing happens. You're just chained in a cage naked. And we let you go.
I like how he added naked.
And we let you go. You know what I'm saying?
Are we live streaming this to see me turn?
No, there won't be any internet.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Maybe we should probably record it for posterity, though.
They're probably going to fry all your shit October 4th.
We probably, for prosperity, we should probably record just to get the change, right? See if Naked Brandel.
Okay, type in what is this month? September, October, September 23rd. Type in September 23rd. See what comes up right now.
Yeah.
What's September 23rd is you're supposed to have all the power go out. You're supposed to have some EMPs go off. There's supposed to be some power going out, and all these military males are going to start disturbing infrastructure and taking down local level infrastructures and such. So let's see what the internet says. What is the significance of September 23rd?
Nothing.
No, there's something out there on it.
Let's see.
I've heard a lot of people talking about it. Nothing?
They've already scrubbed it. See, they've already scrubbed the
internet. Even Bear talked about it this morning.
Google. I am.
Oh, the September equinox.
Oh, that's probably why, because of during the equinox.
I'm always suspicious. There's some things you should always be suspicious about.
Everything the government tells you. We're here to help.
No, you should always be suspicious about anyone who gives you a date.
Sure.
Like if I say October 31st, shit's gonna happen. How do I know October 31st? And if I am out there going October 31st, shit's gonna happen. If you are, let's say you're fucking Bin Laden Jr. and you were like planning the fucking takedown of you're like, yeah, we got this shit locked up. We're gonna blow up every transformer. We're gonna knock out the nuclear power. It's gonna be off like Donkey Kong. And then you're at home, minding your business, playing your video games, and one of your boys is like, hey, do you see the Pulling the Thread podcast, motherfucker? And he's like, what? And he looks at the Pulling the Thread podcast, and there I am going, October 31st, bro. You're not going to go, and still go. It's October 31st is the date. You're going to be like, yeah, we need to bump that up to the 15th, or we need to, pop it off into the next month, because all these crazy motherfuckers are sitting in their houses with their AR-15s right now, getting ready for the apocalypse. So anybody who gives you a fucking date about something, like,
would it surprise you if your own government decided to do it?
This government, this current administration, hell yeah, I believe they would do something against the American people. They've been
telegraphing that punch for the last 2 years. Dark, cold winter. They're trying to ban natural gas. They're trying to ban propane.
So again, anybody, because it's like all the people who predicted the end of the world. Like since Jesus was crucified, people predict. They've been like, hey. 34 AD is going to be off the chain. People have always been predicting the end of the world. And anytime they give you a date, dude, you don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, I'll tell you this, and I haven't spoken to him. I don't know that there's any correlation at all.
And the only reason why I'm saying that is not because I've never believed it. I mean, I
believe every one of them.
I was
there with
I was
you
jumped
at Y2K.
up ready to go for Y2K. I thought the world was going to end. And the crazy part is...
There was a lot of us.
The crazy part is after the fact, like after it happened,
we're like, well, maybe it's on 24-hour clock.
No, but after the fact, after it happened, like when hindsight's always 20/20. But after the fact, I'm like, what the fuck would have happened? Like, what if all the computers would have just went? Pfft, nothing would have happened.
Oh, some shit would have happened.
Nothing would have. Yeah, some banks would have got robbed, but as far as
all your shit would have gone offline, fucking Santa Onofre would have melted down.
Think about what you're saying, John. This was 2000. We were still waiting 45 minutes for a porn picture to come.
Imagine how much worse it will be now.
Yeah, so no, nothing would have happened in 2000. If all the computers went offline, there would have been some rich people, their cars wouldn't have started. There would have been some power would have went out. But then, the reality is some hard-working motherfuckers with white hard hats on would have went out there and went, all right, Jimmy, get rid of all that electronic shit. Screw in them circuit breakers that we were using 100 years ago, and the fucking power would have went back on.
Yeah, well, we have natural gas-fired power plants now that are all electric.
Yeah,
Billy Bob can't go to level 3 and open the dormer and shove some coal into fucking level 1. Like we blew up those coal-fired power plants.
I'm just saying.
So I don't know that there's any correlation. I haven't spoken to him, but Wrangler Star stopped doing all his live videos for the last few weeks.
But Wrangler Star,
and the only content he's putting up is firewood.
But Wrangler Star had an issue. That's why.
No, he did plenty of content after that.
I don't know.
Anyways, guys,
issue has gotten bigger.
Anyways, Is winter cold where you're at? What would happen if you didn't have electricity or your normal means of heating, right? Can you burn wood? Do you have wood? Would you be in any worse shape if you went for the next few weeks and split and collected firewood, right? It's going to be good for your health. You're going to learn some things, and you're going to have some firewood. And if nothing happens, then you can sell it to people who still use firewood.
And if you have a little bit of money and you don't want to spend 40 hours, making big firewood into small firewood, find your local pallet shop and go get you a fucking truck bed full of pallet blocks, cut-off ends, and then you don't have to spend all that time doing that.
Here's another thing, guys. Any of you guys that are building pallet walls, I've got several of them. If you search on...
Yeah,
you can search pallets already pulled apart. Yeah, you can also, for $20 a piece, Home Depot will ship them to you in a box. I bought like 100 boxes of them.
You want pallets already taken apart.
But you can go to pallet shops and buy the wood before they make pallets out of it. The sawmills that are cutting all that wood, if they're not doing it on location, if you just search pallet wood on Marketplace or Craigslist, you'll find dozens of places selling pallet wood that has not already been nailed together. It will save you a ton of time.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to go eat lunch. We're going to eat lunch real fast. We're going to shoot right back out here and do Patreon. All right, guys.
Thanks for
Pulling
watching
the Thread podcast
47.
episode 42. It is 42, right?
No, 36.
What's the real number?
It's 42.
42. So leave some comments if you like this. You guys say you do. All those shorts you see, in every one of those shorts, people are like, where's this from?
It's all out of context.
If this is worth it to you, then tell them how awesome it is for us.
It's all out of context. I love Rangers.
Yeah, they'd get so mad about that. Which one do we want? This one?